may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Put the children to bed. It's time for Dan and Aldo to bare their souls.
I love the Chicago Bears more than I do masturbating, and that is a lot.
Then, with 3 seconds left, Bob Avellini throws a 30-something yard touchdown pass to Greg Latta, and the Bears win, and I literally shit my pants. I swear to God, I literally did.
Eric Kramer, for me, I love the guy. He's a tragic figure. I mean, he embodies all that is.
If they don't run the ball here, I'm going to vomit. I swear to God.
Look, I don't mean any disrespect. He just didn't play that well. Not for a guy of his caliber.
You know, they won, but I'm going to be miserable all week because they stunk.
I don't really have any recollection of that at all, but I guess perhaps I blacked it all out.
So, Dan, tape is the ultimate tool for scouts and for coaches to evaluate players, to detect plays and so forth. And they spend hours looking at tape, right? Why do they so often get shit wrong?
Ladies and gentlemen, Dan and Aldo.
Tuesday night, everybody! It is Dan and Aldo Gandia. How are you, everybody? Dan, how's it going, man?
Oh, yeah. Rodgers has cut all of his drama, all of his shit out. We know what's up. I said on this show a year ago he wasn't going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You remember when people were saying that maybe he would skip the season? I was like, there's no, fuck that. It's not going to happen. and I knew he wasn't going to leave. So bring it on, man. We need to find a way to beat this asshole.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about Russell Wilson. And we're going to talk about free agent wide receivers. I've been doing a little bit of homework on that. Johnny Santucci will be joining us in about 10 or 15 minutes. But
asshole?
That asshole is going to join us in 10 or 15 minutes. And we're going to talk about Bill Cosby because it's a show that John and Dan and I have watched weeks ago now. And we were so moved by it that we wanted to talk about it on the show. And then we'll talk about whatever the fuck you people.
How about Winning Time, too?
Winning Time, the Los Angeles Lakers.
I dug Winning Time. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, I don't know if Tooch nod yes or no. You have not seen it. Okay, so actually we can maybe start right there and then bookend stuff with Talking TV on the other end. So you saw Winning Time, the new HBO show that details the rise of the Los Angeles Lakers. It begins with Magic being told he has AIDS, but it then quickly flashbacks to the time where he's being drafted and all the politics that was going on. And you really liked it, huh?
Yeah, a couple of things I didn't know. Being, again, from West Virginia, Jerry West is a legend here. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that he was so, like, caustic and, like, you know, fuck this and fuck that with everybody, which, again, okay, whatever. But I don't know. Again, we should ask Jeff Pearlman if he ever comes back on again. Was he really that consumed by losing those finals to Boston? Because he did win. Like he won in 73, right? Didn't they beat the Knicks in 73?
He did, yes.
Yeah, so he won. I think he got two titles. Mm-hmm. Am I right?
I think you're right.
He and Wilt did eventually get some. So, but maybe he was still that bitter over losing those championships to Boston. But God, I didn't know he was just such an asshole to everybody and so unhappy. And I knew Jack Kent Cooke from his days of owning Washington, mm-hmm. the Redskins. Mm-hmm. And I knew that he was probably just a typical rich, you know, just smug fuck.
That's what he
was. But I didn't know he was just the way he's portrayed on the show make me hate him even more. And I've never been a fan of that John C. Reilly guy because I don't like Will Ferrell's movies, but I thought he was so good as Dr. Boss. And I love that like Dr. Buster just sit there when everyone's like, we don't want Magic. And he's like, okay, I'll let you vent, but fuck you. I'm drafting Magic or Irvin, it's just, he was so cool and chill and people were just losing their minds around him, whether it was Jerry West or Jack Kent Cook.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought the kid that played Magic was good. And I'll let you talk too here, but
no, please go.
I wonder real quick if the thing with Norm Nixon on the court really happened.
Yeah, I'd love to know if that really happened. I'll have to go back to Jeff Pearlman's book, which is the series that's based on, to see if that really happened, because that's everything in there is accurate, but a lot of stuff in the TV series we've been told has been changed. It starts off with one of those graphics at the beginning, some of the characters and blah, blah, blah and stuff for dramatic purposes. So there is a scene where Norm Nixon is at a party and Magic shows up, and Norm Nixon, who is not happy about the rumors that Magic Johnson, another point guard, is going to be drafted. Norm Nixon was the point guard at the time for the Lakers. He ain't happy about it. And so he wants to show Magic and embarrass Magic that he should go back to another year of college at Michigan State, and busts his balls on the court at this lavish party as a basketball court with a white court floor, and just dazzles Magic, and Magic just looked stupid and actually fell when Norm scored his final points, and Magic is on the court just embarrassed. And the next day he tells Jerry Buss, don't draft me because I'm going back to college. And I won't say anything else because I would then reveal the end of episode 1. But I'm with Dan. I liked it, although there were a few things that I didn't like about it. I don't like the shooting style. It's got this kind of Kodachrome Super 8 look to it so that it can match the 70s or the 80s. And I didn't like that shooting style. You're never going to find anybody to look exactly like Magic Johnson, but there's one thing about that kid's performance is that he doesn't capture at all is that brilliant smile that Magic Johnson has. Magic Johnson has a smile that is as big as the Hollywood sign on up on the hills there, and this kid doesn't have it. But aside from that, his performance is solid. So I'm just nitpicking here. But you're right, Dan, there's a lot of interesting things in it. And the whole Jerry West thing, what a fucking sourpuss motherfucking asshole he is, man.
Yeah,
I didn't know that about him.
Do you think Kareem, because maybe I'm just being naive. I thought Kareem was the kind of guy that was, he's the intellectual, he's the cerebral guy.
Right.
I didn't even think Kareem said fuck.
Exactly. I was shocked by that.
Yeah, but Kareem is saying fuck off to everybody on the show. I mean, maybe he really did talk that way, and it doesn't change my opinion because fuck, I talk like that. But I just thought Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. This guy he's not, his play is trash talking you, not his verbiage.
Right, exactly. I mean, very religious man, very soft-spoken, but there are stories that he kept to himself. And in the one scene where I think that's the scene where he's introduced, he's got headsets on, somebody comes in,
he's listening to jazz or something.
Yeah, and he just doesn't want, fuck you, I don't want to talk to you and stuff. And so maybe as episodes go on, we'll get more of the in-depth figure that Jabbar really is. But that was kind of a strange way to introduce him. He was just kind of off to himself, didn't want to be bothered by anybody. And
he told that kid from Airplane to go fuck himself.
That is a great scene in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a great scene. And there is, I remember when the Lakers won that first championship, there being stories in Sports Illustrated about how Magic helped to turn around Kareem, because Kareem was very soft-spoken, wasn't used to any players hugging him and stuff. And of course, Magic is a big hugger, and it really helped to change his temperament. So maybe I just forgotten that he was a kind of a sourpuss, because he faced so much discrimination, not only being a black man in New York growing up in Harlem, but also being so fucking tall and being used by college scouts and so forth and so on. So maybe he was a bit on the edgy side during that period of his life.
Yeah, 2 quick comments on it. I know we need to move on to the Bears and football and stuff. The first game of that 79-80 season, I've heard Magic talk about this many times, that I forget who the opponent was, but it came down to, okay, we've got one possession. This is it. We either win, we lose, we're down one or whatever it is. And Kareem hits the game-winning shot, and like magically jumps on his back and shit, and of course Kareem is like, get off of me. He's like, there's 81 more of these, right? Magic said that he told Kareem, if you win 81 more times just like this, I'm jumping on your back 81 more times.
I love it.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. And the one thing, just to illustrate the point of how big a dick the Jack Kent Cook is when he's talking about Kareem to Dr. Buss, he's still calling him Lew Alcindor.
Yes.
And there's a lot of smug white people that would do that shit in the 60s to Ali, that would call him Clay and shit, like just to be condescending.
Yep.
Just to be a smug fuck, just for no reason.
Yeah, and with no appreciation at all for the religion. They thought it was, ridiculous.
Oh yeah, they thought he was a pussy to avoid the war. Man, fuck you.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's a good show. Episode 1 was good. I think it's a 10 episode run every Sunday night. So we'll be looking forward to that. And hopefully Tooch will catch up with us and we can talk about it with him. Lots of football news today. And of course, the big news, and I loved it. Russell Wilson is traded to the Denver Broncos. And the whole Aaron Rodgers signs is now like the second or third story on every sports show. It was like, fuck you, Aaron. You wanted to fuck with us all last season, make us do this, make us do that, pay attention to your whining and so forth. Well, guess what? Russell Wilson just fucking buried your lead story, you signing for $50 million. So we'll talk about Rodgers later, but we got a special guest with us, Dan. So why don't you go ahead and introduce him?
Well, real quick, before I bring Mr. Barner in, do you think that the trade news with Russell Wilson was dependent on Rodgers saying that he was staying in Green Bay?
I think so. I think that there were reports that Rodgers was talking to 2 or 3 teams to explore trade options. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if those teams told Aaron Rodgers, listen, dude, we don't want your fucking drama. We don't want to pay you $50 million. We don't want you to come into the GM's office and tell us what to do. Get the fuck out of here. Go back to Green Bay. That's probably what happened, but I don't know. I'm just speculating.
Yeah, go back to losing playoff games.
Exactly.
All right, so here, and again, I'm jealous for not making the playoffs as a Bears fan, so yeah, okay. Call me out on my bullshit, but I'm also calling him out for constantly losing, regardless of how good his teammates are. So Sylvester is Sylvester Barner. Again, I've grown up with him. We were on the same Little League team at one point. He's a little bit older than me, but he was on the show once before. He went to the Steeler game with me in November, and he witnessed us getting cheated at Heinz Field. But the reason I want him to come on is because he's a lifelong Denver fan. And so as soon as I found out the news today, I was at the track exercising, and when my workout was done, as soon as I saw it, I sent it to him, and he already knew. I think his son had told him. I wanted his opinion because when I read it, it's like, ooh, 2 firsts, 2 seconds, a 5th, Drew Locke. Come on, man, this guy's 34, right? That's a little steep, but he was like, fuck that. This is a good trade. So I would love for him to jump in and tell us why.
Well, he's now on camera. We're seeing Sylvester live and in color, and I got to tell you, Sylvester is jerking off every time we mention him. That's how happy he is. Get your hand up out of there.
I can't help myself right now.
Congratulations, man. That's a big time move. You make big time moves if you want to do big time things, and that's what the Broncos did today.
They did. You can't imagine how happy I was. Last time I was on, I talked about how, if we had got a hold of Aaron Rodgers, even though all the baggage that came along with him, I would be happy just because we've been quarterbackless for so long. Look at the Rams. Rams gave up shit. They probably can't have another pick until 2025, something like that. I don't know. They just won a Super Bowl. So what we gave away today for somebody that's solid, comes with no baggage, and he's going to end every interview with "Go Broncos." That's all we need right now.
How true is that? So now, when you say no baggage, you do know the stories that the defense, when they went to the Super Bowl, they were not real happy with Russell Wilson. They thought he was smug. They thought that he got too much credit for the success when it was the defense that probably they wouldn't have gone to the Super Bowl without that great defense. So there were those stories about Russell Wilson. You're not worried about any of that, right?
No, not at all. For the simple fact that I can agree that defensively, the Seahawks were top tier. That's pretty much what got them on that run.
Mm-hmm.
But all in the same account, the Seahawks wasn't turning the ball over. They stayed on the field. With defenses, you're going to have time to rest if you're going to stay dominant. Mm-hmm. So if the offense puts up 24 points and you hold a team to 20, that's all you need.
Mm-hmm.
So with the defense that we have right now, which we lost one starter, I didn't think that was too much to give up. The only thing in that whole trade that upset me was the tight end. We lost the tight end. He was going to be pretty good.
Noah Fant, an excellent tight end. Yes, indeed.
Mm-hmm. But Drew Locke,
mm-hmm.
See him.
So how bad is Drew Locke? Like, is he as bad as one of Dan's farts? Because I know you smelled those when hanging out with him.
Yeah, he's not that bad. Not that bad. But I would compare him to a young Brett Favre with no. He has all the bad of Brett Favre. He can throw plenty of interceptions, but he doesn't have the touchdown ability. I just don't see it.
Okay, yeah, because I really haven't seen or studied Drew Locke much. But so when you say Brett Favre, is he that gunslinger type?
Absolutely, he'll sling it. He'll try to stick it in there,
mm-hmm.
and unfortunately, when he tries to stick it in there, it's more times we going back the other way. So it's a late read. Put it like that. When he throws it out there, it's always a late read. I've watched him over the years. I've tried to have confidence in him. When Teddy Bridgewater came last year, I already knew what the outcome was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So with Drew, I mean, if he gets in the right system, like any other quarterback, then he might do better. But he's still average. He's not going to be on not even the second tier of quarterbacks in this league.
See, that's what, from the outside looking in, that's what, again, I don't watch the Bronco games every week or anything, so I'm not going to pretend to tell you I'm some Denver expert. But just in my Bears bunker, I look at Denver and I think they seem to just fail at developing young quarterbacks. And over the years, and I know this guy failed when he got traded, but at the time it looked like Osweiler had some potential. Then they drafted that Paxton Lynch guy. I don't even know if he started a game. And then you got Locke, and it just feels like they're reluctant to stay with somebody. And now that's not an issue if you got Wilson healthy. I get it. But that's my criticism of the organization. Even in between, before they got Peyton Manning, it was the same thing. Tebow, and it just feels like since Elway retired, they had Greasy for a couple of years, but they just can't. And then Jake, and then they give up on Cutler as well. It just feels like they're reluctant to build the team around a young quarterback.
Very valid.
Locke,
very valid.
Maybe we wouldn't know if he was any good because they don't really give him the shot. Like you said, Teddy came in, and look, I have nothing but respect for Bridgewater. He came back from a horrible situation, getting hurt on the practice field in Minnesota, almost fucking died. So I root for Teddy, but at the same time, I feel like Denver's done an injustice to some of these young quarterbacks, which it doesn't matter now. You got your guy, but maybe one of these guys could have been good if you'd have just, what we want in Chicago. We want everything built around Fields. And I think Denver could have had something if they'd done that with one of their younger quarterbacks in the last couple of years.
I'm surprised, Sylvester, that, John Elway hasn't had better success at developing young quarterbacks. I mean, he's not down there on the field, but you would think a guy with his pedigree that he would figure out a way to lead the efforts to develop young quarterbacks. Do you have any insight on that?
A lot of the times I'm just as puzzled because the only guy that I've seen since he's left that had any promise to me was Osweiler. I never was a big fan of Tebow, even though Tebow put up W's on the board.
He and I got into an argument for like 3 years because of Tebow.
He put wins, he went to the playoffs.
Fans remember that game. And he was like, see, I told you that Tebow, we got the best part of that Cutler trade. And I was like, man, Tim Tebow's fucking garbage, and you know it. And he wouldn't admit it. He was like, oh, no, Tim Tebow. So, yeah, he finally admitted after Tebow was gone, like, yeah, you're right. He's garbage. I was just fucking with you.
We got breaking news. According to Art by Nike, in Bleacher Report says that the Seahawks have released linebacker Bobby Wagner. Come on over to the Chicago Bulls. Bears him play for a $2 million a year deal.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, that is big news, though. And we're gonna dive into some of these free agent transactions, but let's stay on the topic of Denver. So, Sylvester, as you turn on the radio and you're listening to all your fellow Bronco fans, what's the temperature like? Is everybody like super excited, or has there been some arguments against the trade?
No negativity whatsoever. It's no way possible. I mean, you two, out of everybody that I know, has to be with me on this as far as the bleeding heart is concerned. I mean, you had Cutler since he retired.
Mm-hmm.
What really have you had to look forward to? I mean, you got Fields now. Trubisky, and this is another thing. You look at all those quarterbacks, and you went with Trubisky, and you're going to try to stay with him. But how long are you trying to stay with him before you get to the point it's like we have to do something different?
Mm-hmm.
And I understand the offense that he was in and what he was running wasn't quite up to what he normally does. But every quarterback in the NFL, if you're going to win, you have to throw the ball. You have to throw the ball accurately. So that's what we're getting, and that's what we haven't had. We've had plenty of good arms, but we haven't had the brain to go with it.
I'll give you that. Early in Russell's career, it were a lot of handoffs to beast mode and playing, close to the vest and that read option where Russell would just take off running, because back then you couldn't really stick the quarterback. They still classified him as a quarterback, but they changed the rule because of Kaepernick and Wilson just – running amok with that read option. But in subsequent years, like the last 5-6 years, he really has shown a propensity to throw for 300 yards whenever, just give the guy time. He can do it. It's just, I still think that if they'd have run the ball in Super Bowl 49 with Lynch instead of throwing that fucking slant, that the Seahawks would have won the Super Bowl there, though.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I don't know, man.
But yeah, I think Wilson, if he stays healthy, if he can stay healthy, like you said, though, it's a huge upgrade. I do think that the organization has failed to develop the younger people. But having said that, I think Kansas City's kind of on the downslide now. They've not only lost the Super Bowl, they've lost a playoff game at home, and they should have lost to Buffalo. It took a miracle to beat Buffalo. They've met their Buster Douglas. They're not invincible anymore. The Chargers are always pumped up by the media. Oh, this fucking Herbert kid. And maybe he is as good as they say, but it feels like they're always around 500. And, the Raiders, like Derek Carr, seems like a mediocre kind of guy. I mean, they made the playoffs this year. My point is, I wouldn't be surprised if Russell stays healthy, that suddenly they're in the running for the AFC West title.
Oh, I think that's what that trade is all about. It's for Super Bowls. It's not for, it's not to entice season ticket holders to stick around. This is a play by John Elway and the brass at the Denver Broncos to win titles. They're going to follow the LA Rams, just like Sylvester said when he first came on. They're going to follow the LA Rams formula for winning. And a lot of other teams are probably going to start doing the same thing. And I think that, Russell Wilson last season did not have a good year, but if you watch closely the tape and you watch closely his performance, the guy still has it. There's no doubt about it. He was He was not happy with the situation there. He didn't have the offensive line, despite attempts to try to improve the offensive line. He didn't have it. And he's also got to do a better job of getting rid of the ball sometimes. But nonetheless, the evidence is all in. Russell Wilson can get you back to the Super Bowl. The thing now is with the Broncos is with some of these missing parts, they're going to have to find some real value options. They're going to have to find a tight end that can replace Noah Fant. They're going to have to find, maybe somebody on defense that's going to help. But man, they got the tools, right, Sylvester? You got to be excited. I'm
very excited, man. Looking at Bronco News today, it's even a possibility we get Von Miller back, send him off, get a ring, bring him on back. So
he sent out a tweet saying, basically, I want to come back.
Yeah, we were talking earlier about that. Back in the early 90s, Ricky Henderson got traded from Oakland to Toronto, won the ring with the Jays, and then re-signed with the A's in the offseason. So it's happened before.
It has happened.
Yeah, I'm all with it.
Jersey, man, you gonna finally get a Russell Wilson jersey?
We have to see what this year do before I go all in. But if we make it to the playoffs, I'll go ahead and buy me one. It's no pressure.
I always send him a link. I'm like, look, man, it's on sale. That 1994 John Elway throwback 75th anniversary. This shit's on sale for $80. You need to buy this. He doesn't buy it.
You should buy it for him, Dan.
Shit, I might, man. He needs a jersey, man.
So that's Sylvester taking care of you. Foster in the chat room says Broncos can win 12 games if they split with the division foes. Look at who they play, 11-13 wins. What do you think about that, Sylvester? What Foster says there?
Well, me and Dan went over the schedule today, and I can see that. And I'm looking at more than a split. I believe we could beat the Raiders twice. I believe that. Right now, projecting, just projecting, 13 out of 17.
Damn.
Yeah, that's big numbers.
Oh, shit.
That's what I feel that Russell Wilson trade just brought in. So with the weapons that we have, the defense is still solid. We can fit a piece or two. I mean, we can bring somebody in to rush the passer. We still got guys on the back end. We're in good shape.
This wild card is, as you and I were speaking, 4 or 5 hours ago, is that nobody really knows anything about this coach.
Yeah,
I mean, with Rodgers running the show in Green Bay, like the way Mahomes is for Eric Bieniemy, that's why I wouldn't want Eric Bieniemy. That's the way Matt Nagy proved to just be a fucking joke because he wasn't doing anything. Andy Reid was calling the offense. It's like, how much or how responsible was this Hackett guy for actually generating any success in Green Bay, and how will he be as a head coach?
That's the wild card. You're right. That's absolutely right. And I have no clue. You just want to go on prowess. I mean, I didn't have any speculation on Vic when he came in, but you see how that went. So you just got to hope for the best and just go ride with it.
I would like to see us get Kyle Fuller back the way you all may get Von Miller back and have him start on the opposite side till we get another corner that's got, some swag, man. Our corners really, really lack something, that intangible, in my opinion. And Fuller was so good for us. It's shocking to me how bad he was with Fangio in Denver, even to the point where he's getting benched by the end of the season. And he's still fairly young. I hope the Bears could bring him back cheap, $1.5 million, $2 million deal, 1 year, prove it, maybe 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, he was doing great with us. He was not doing necessarily the peanut punch, but he was creating a lot of turnovers with just solid textbook tackling. He hits your ass low, man.
His best season tackling was that last season with the Bears, and that's why one of the reasons I was surprised that he was let go, because I thought he was ascending, not descending. But yeah, he didn't play well at Denver. By the way, Sylvester, what do you got to say to PZ? He says the Broncos are way overrated, and Sylvester, this is an uncensored show. So if you want to tell him, go fuck yourself, go right ahead.
No. I mean, you can, we're not rated at all. If you really look at the record in the last couple of years, what we got now, you got to put up or shut up. And right now, I know we're going to put up. It's one of those type deals. It's just like Stafford for the Rams, Brady for the Bucks. We're going to come in. He's going to show he still got it. He has something to prove. So I would be surprised if we didn't make it to the AFC Championship game.
Is Gordon still there as the back?
Say what?
Is Gordon still the back?
Melvin Gordon, the running back.
Yes. Yeah, him and that kid Williams from North Carolina. Oh yeah,
that's a great.
That's why I say he doesn't have to throw the ball 30 times a game. We can run through you, we can run around you, we can run over you, and boom, 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 we launching downfield. How much better can you get?
There you go.
Like I said earlier, you got to keep somebody. If it's not Teddy, somebody like Ryan Fitzpatrick, just in the bullpen in case Wilson has, like a hammy or a shin or something that causes him to miss 2 or 3 weeks and not like season threatening. But that's the only concern. You can't just be going to a 7th round pick in case Russell goes down for a few weeks.
I'm down to keep Teddy. Teddy is, like I said, he's a good guy. He's a good quarterback, but I just don't think he's a franchise guy.
That's for sure. He
may have been had he not gotten injured in Minnesota. He was doing the job. I think my displeasure of Teddy, if I were a Viking fan at the time, was that I didn't think he had a good deep ball, but he was winning there before he got hurt. So I don't want to shit on Bridgewater at all.
Well, Sylvester, I wanted to ask you before we move on here, any thoughts about the Chicago Bears? Are you a Justin Fields fan? I think I remember you saying you were.
Yes. Like I told Dan when y'all first got Fields, I think he's going to be the guy. He just needs somebody in there to guide him in the right way, take him to, because he showed. I believe he's a lot better athletically than Trubisky ever was. I believe he can throw the ball better than Trubisky. I believe he reacts way better than Trubisky. Now, if Trubisky had a year in Buffalo under a better regime, I don't know. But right now, I believe Fields is going to be that guy.
And
to get him away from the bald fuck, man, and Nagy.
Yeah, really.
I think that is huge, and I think he's going to be if he stays healthy, I think his second year is going to be just immensely better than that first year under the Matt Nagy. Just terrible coaching. Yeah, I believe in Fields too.
Yeah, like Dan said that he thinks the Kansas City Chiefs are going to go downhill. The only reason I would might agree with him is because Matt Nagy is now coaching over there.
Yeah, he's Mahomes' quarterback coach. Yes. If I'm Patrick Mahomes, I'm like, you do know that I won a Super Bowl, right? You yes. do know that I went to a second Super Bowl. You're coaching me. I should coach you.
That's right. Hey, Patrick is probably telling Nagy, hey, make sure my girlfriend doesn't say anything stupid on social media.
Yeah, that's all. That's the main trouble right there.
His brother's always getting involved in controversy somehow too.
Yeah, I think I've never really followed that whole thing, and then I've been trying to get little tidbits of it. But yeah, apparently his brother is a douchebag or something.
Yeah, his brother's more of an idiot than his girlfriend is.
Oh man!
Now the girl, the part of that is a lot of people, for right or wrong, see her as being the typical white girl that jumps on a black guy when he's got money. But to be fair to her, they've been together since before he was famous.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people view them immediately through the lens of racism and races, like biracial couples and just this bullshit. But even growing up, that's the one good thing I got with Sylvester, man. We grew up in a fucking state it's so far right now. But there was never any of that bullshit when we grew up. There was never, ever was there any of this white versus black shit until we got to our high school when there was all those fucking rednecks there. But we grew up in an area where it was like 50-50 and everybody got the fuck along, man.
Hey, Jamal Lewis, not that Jamal Lewis. Our buddy Jamal Lewis says, the bald fuck. I love Dan's nicknames for these coaches. The boy, the Green Bay coach.
Hey, you know what, Aldo? We were talking about the Bears earlier, Sylvester and I too, and I didn't know this. I didn't contemplate it, but after looking at our opponents, man, Lovey comes in to Soldier Field this year. So I think he coached Tampa against us twice, but Lovey, Houston plays the Bears in Chicago.
Well, that's the game you should be coming to Chicago for.
Man, I want to root for Lovey, though. I do. Like I said, I want him to succeed there and turn that shitty franchise around and get more credit. Like I was telling Sylvester earlier, he's the answer to a trivia question now, the first black coach to advance to a Super Bowl. But he's so much more than just that, man. His players respected him and loved him, and he's a leader of men. So I would like to see him rebound and turn that team around. I'm definitely going to be rooting for them.
Not against the Bears.
Not against the Bears.
Okay.
I wouldn't root for my mom against the Bears. So, who was it? Butkus? Somebody famously said they'd run over their grandmother if it meant that they won. So yeah, I kind of feel the same way in that regard.
Hey, Sylvester, thanks so much for popping in, and you're welcome here anytime.
Okay.
Do you have any advice for us Chicago Bears fans? Because you've been a long-suffering Bronco fan. You got any advice for people like that?
Long-suffering? He's won 3 Super Bowls.
I know, but I'm looking at him, and he's so sad. And finally, we made him laugh a little bit.
No, he's got 3 titles, man. No bullshit. He's got 3. If he never wins another again, he can be. He's chill, man. He's good.
Yeah, he's not.
I don't know. We've been suffering together for the last couple of years. So
that's for sure.
All I can say right now is all they can do is go up. You got rid of the ball fuck, so all they can do is go up.
I need to copyright that
shit. Exactly.
You're the man, Sylvester. Let's keep in touch, man. You can be our Denver Broncos correspondent, all right?
All righty, fellas. Thank you for having me on tonight.
Anytime, brother. Take care
now. Man.
All right, later, fellas.
All right, man.
All right, we replace one legend with another. Johnny Santucci comes on in now. And Tucci, what do you think about this whole Russell Wilson to Denver situation?
There was news today.
There was. Oh, man, you sent me a private chat. Can I chat with Sylvester?
That's all right.
I'm sorry. Next time.
I was going to ask him about the Mountaineers college basketball team this year.
Dude, I'll give you his number if you want to text him. He's a great dude, man. You'll like him.
Oh, it's obvious he's a great dude.
They have had a down season this year under Coach Bob Huggins, who usually has a good defensive squad. He had spent many years as Cincinnati Bearcats head coach. And
I like Huggins a lot. Being from here, I don't watch games or shit. And West Virginia's football coaches have been horrible. Like this guy, Neil Brown, shouldn't even be coaching in high school. He's worse than Nagy. But I do like Bob Huggins for some reason. And it's like every time they lose, Huggins ages a couple of years.
He did have a rough year, but, it's been tough for, since they joined the Big Ten.
Or they're and then
Big 12.
The
Big 12. Yep. Big 12 probably.
I'm you his number now, man. If you want to text for real,
the Big 12 probably. Big 12 and SEC probably the 2 toughest conferences for college basketball.
Well, let's move over and talk about this this fucking asshole. Do you have a nickname for Aaron Rodgers, Dan?
The smug fuck.
That's a good one. The contract.
Let me introduce this if you don't mind.
No, not at all.
I want to give credit to our boy, Mr. Jovanovic, Sanjin Jovanovic. He asked me this earlier, and I don't know the answer, so that's why I was like, let's wait till we get on the air. I'll ask Aldo; he'll know. And Mr. Jovanovic's point was, if Green Bay's over the cap, $25 million, and now they're giving out a $50 million a year hit to Rodgers, and presumably I added another $20 million at least to keep Devontae Adams. So that's $70 million for 2 players, and they were already $25 million over. How the fuck are they allowed to do this?
Right. Well, there is a period of time where you can be over the cap while you're building your squad for the upcoming season. I don't know what the date is for 2022, but you got to get below that cap then. And so what is going to happen with the Green Bay Packers and most other teams that are flirting with going over the cap or way over the cap now is that they will start to shed salary. You're going to see some of these players for the Green Bay Packers who are free agents this year. And, it could be that they'll drop Adrian Amos, for instance. That's been a popular topic of discussion for Packers fans.
Bring his whore ass over back to the Bears.
Yeah, please. Add a deal, too, because you've been fucking with us on social media, you ass.
Yeah.
So they're going to start shedding some salary. It's almost like they're molding the salary cap. So some of the, another couple of other players, those two outside linebackers, Zadarius Smith, and I'm forgetting the name of the other guy. They're Preston Smith. They're probably going to be gone. Robert Tunyon, Marquise Valdez Scantling. Those are all guys who are, probably not going to return with the Green Bay Packers. So they're going to sacrifice some name players in order to accommodate Aaron Rodgers' greedy ass and paying Devontae Adams that exorbitant cap fee, which is what, $18-19 million. That's a lot of money. And so also what they could possibly do to get under the cap, and I'm sure they'll be working on this, is they're going to try to sign Devontae Adams to a multi-year contract, which now would reduce the 2022 cap. So if you sign him through a 3-year contract, you can defer some money for the second year, third year of that, and then his contract will be aligned with Aaron Rodgers, and then he can become a free agent when Rodgers' contract is done with. That might be appealing to both Adams and the Packers. So there are ways for them to do that. And I by no means am offering up here a scientific explanation, because nobody can. I mean, even capologists will be vague about certain things, because there's so many fucking things these guys who manage caps for NFL teams can do to move shit around that makes a lot of things possible. So when we had Mike McCarthy, not the Dallas Cowboys coach, but the prominent player's agent on, he said, listen, if you want a player, there are ways to make it happen. I've sat in on negotiations with the Cowboys, Jerry Jones and other people, and you can make it happen. It might cost you another player, but you can, if you really want this player, you can make it happen. And that's what the Packers have done.
Yeah. I mean, here I am sweating, thinking like, man, we're going to have to, I've been critical of Mac. We all know that. But in theory, like Mac at defensive end and Quinn at defensive end, in a 4-3 and not linebackers, I'm like, man, this shit could be good, if he stays healthy. So I'm sweating thinking we're going to lose Mac. And his cap hit is like half of Rodgers, like literally half.
Right.
If they can afford to keep Rodgers at $50 million, then man, Khalil at like 27 or whatever, at 26, we should be fine.
Right. Well, and then Brad Biggs of the Chicago Tribune wrote an article exploring the option of trading Khalil Mack, and said, maybe they can the Bears could work out a Von Miller type trade that Denver did with Denver.
The Rams.
Denver traded Von Miller to the Rams, a trade where the team, the Broncos, picked up some of Von Miller's salary, and then they acquired a second rounder and a third rounder for Miller. The Bears could potentially do that if they find a team like the Chargers, for instance. The Chargers have like 10 draft picks this year. They've loaded with draft picks, and they need some pass rushing help. They may want Khalil Mack. They may want to give up a second rounder and a third rounder. But then what are you doing to the Bears? Well, you're going to give up that hopefully that immediate pass rush that we're going to get game one with Quinn and Mack at the ends. And that is going to be so helpful for whoever is going to be playing in the secondary, because if you get a pass rush on a quarterback, that quarterback is probably going to throw inaccurately and probably going to throw it into the hands of a Bears defensive back. So having that pass rush is so important. And to give it up for a second rounder and a third rounder, arguably, it's not a good move. What do you guys think?
I would like to keep him if he's going to be healthy. I I'd like to think that this has got to be what motivates him. Coming back from an injury. But you're a little bit older now, Khalil. But going back to a 4-3 and to shut people like me up by saying, like, look, I'm bringing it, and I'm back in an offense or a defensive scheme rather that suits my talents more. Like, why couldn't this guy be comeback player of the year?
I totally agree. Let's remember the great start he got off to in 2021. He had 5 sacks by the time he was injured and done for the season, and that was after 6 games. And so there is no reason at all as playing as a 4-3 defensive end and going after the quarterback. The vast majority of the plays, you're going to see some plays still where he drops back into coverage. That's part of, the gamesmanship of being unpredictable that defensive corners have to face nowadays. But for the most part, he's going to get after the quarterback. Robert Quinn's going to get after the quarterback. And that's what you want out of those guys, because that's what God made them for.
Can I point out, too, that it was just a criminal act for Robert Quinn not to be named comeback player of the year?
Oh, who did win that?
Oh, fuck. I'm sure it was Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers, just somebody that the NFL worships for no reason. This dude had like 2 sacks and went through all of his personal issues and comes back with 18 and a half sacks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when everyone had wrote him off, even all of us, and he comes back and has this phenomenal. I don't know how he's not comeback player of the year. He just doesn't have a big enough name, man. The NFL is a popularity contest. It's like trying to become king and queen at your prom.
What about Joe Burrow? You think he was a better candidate for comeback player of the year because he's the guy that won? And thank you, Aaron, the Bearded Bears fan.
See,
for that.
They love Joe Burrow's a guy that they love, especially since he got to the Super Bowl now.
Mm-hmm.
And do I think he deserved comeback player of the year over Quinn? No, I don't, because Burrow was having a pretty good season before he got hurt his rookie year.
Yeah.
And Quinn had a disastrous year in 2020.
That's a good explanation for that, Dan, is the fact that, he came back from what? Well, you can say he came back from injury, but that's not really what the award was meant for. I think the award was meant for a guy had a bad season, and now he's come back and had a good season. And Robert Quinn certainly fits that description much better.
Absolutely.
Hair Bear says it's all about the story, and I totally agree with Hair Bear. It's about the story and the narrative the NFL wants out there. They want to build stars, and they know that with Joe Burrow, that's a good way to build the stars, to give him that award. You were going to say that?
Talked about that for years.
Go ahead.
Tooch, what was that?
You and I have talked about that for years, the story.
Mm-hmm.
The best stories. Yep. That's what they want to put out front.
Yep.
I was going to say, if in theory, if you were asking me, I hope that they keep 52. I really do. But if you come at me next week and you're like, hey man, they traded Mac, I think we'll be okay. Like as we've been saying with our GM, we need picks. We need to build through the draft. And Robert Quinn did most of his damage without Mac on the field. So if Robert Quinn, and then you put 99 on the other side potentially as a defensive end, and maybe you can still bring some of that ferocity. So I hope that they find a way to keep Mac, but I think the Bears could be okay if they do trade him.
Yeah, it's Ryan Poles said at the combine, that's the hand we were dealt when he was asked, do you wish you had more draft picks? Yeah, that's the hand we were dealt. But I think he wasn't just answering that question. He is looking at the entire mess that was left behind by Ryan Pace. Very little cap space when you look at the fact that there are 25 or 26 guys who were significant players for the Bears last season who are free agents this year. So really you don't have a lot of cap space. I mean, you don't even have enough to field a football team of guys who are signed right now. And so I forgot my train of thought, but it's a fucking mess. It's a fucking mess. And the hill that the Bears have to climb to get out of this mess, I think it's going to take a year or two, and it's going to take some lucky breaks. And I bet you that the roster we see in 2023 is going to be very different than the roster we start the season with in 2022.
Let me make you feel better.
Please.
Let me point out that the Bears schedule this year, again, you never know what a team's going to do when the season starts.
Mm-hmm.
But in theory, this year's schedule significantly lighter than last year. I mean, significantly lighter. And at least we're not saddled with signing a 39-year-old quarterback to $50 million a year for 4 years. And I don't know for sure. Probably the whole damn thing's guaranteed. And a quarterback who can't win the fucking big game. I know he won the one 12, 13 years ago. It's an aberration, though.
Mm-hmm.
We got a quarterback in our division, Mr. Regular Season. At least that's not us. We're not saddled with that. We got a kid where the fucking the sky's the limit. I think we can win the Super Bowl at number one.
You make a good argument there, and Hairbear does too. He wrote, "It's very possible that the bald fuck and his staff misevaluated what they had on the team. We don't even know, but it might be there." And Hairbear's totally right. You know, these guys can come in. This new coaching staff can come in, and the players, guys like although Bilal Nichols is a free agent, but Bilal Nichols could potentially be re-signed and then fit that 3 tech that is so important to Eberflus's defense, because that has to be the disruptor and so forth. And so
is that the Tommy Harris kind of role?
Exactly. Yeah. That's the Tommy Harris role. He lines up on the left shoulder of the guard and the right shoulder of the tackle, and he uses that gap to get in there and disrupt. And so Bilal Nichols right now, based on my limited knowledge of availability of free agents and so forth, he might be the best candidate for that role. And so let's re-sign him, and hopefully Eberflus and his staff can take Bilal Nichols from being a borderline starter type to a all-pro or Pro Bowl caliber type player. I hope that is true. Coaching is so valuable in the National Football League. More than any other sport, you really need coaches who know what they do in terms of evaluating the talent they have and then finding roles for them that they can do at a high level and do it consistently week after week. How many times did we see the Chicago Bears run out of the tunnel under Matt Nagy and just start terribly, and it looked like fucking Matt Nagy didn't give them a rah-rah speech. He instead told them, I hate all you guys. Go out there and embarrass me. It's really fucked up how poorly the Bears came out of the tunnel in so many games. And I'm hoping that that's not going to be an issue here. I don't care about the acronyms and the hits philosophy and the cliches that Eberflus use. A lot of players buy into that shit. And so hopefully the Bears will, and they'll come out and play a good 60 minutes. They'll remember to tackle. They'll remember to go after loose balls. They'll remember to do all the fucking fundamentals it takes to win football games.
I'll give you a cliche now, since you mentioned the word cliche. When I think at the bald fuck, it's like the first year he gets there, I think anybody wants to try to fit in with the new coaching staff to assure that they're going to have a spot,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So they're giving him respect, and he's got them doing the booms and, the club dub, and they're winning. Of course, you could argue that's because of Vic and everything. But by the second year, I think it was clear to everybody, to use the cliche, it was like the Wizard of Oz. They pulled back that fucking curtain and saw who Oz was.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, man, this guy's a joke. And I think everybody knew that from 19 on. And that's the reason why that we're always flat. Because they knew they're being leaded by a complete and utter fraud.
Yep, you're right. And I'm sure as time goes on, we're gonna hear more and more stories about Nagy's
ineptitude.
Ineptitude. That's the word I was looking for. I am dying to hear what Akeem Hicks said. Akeem Hicks, in his last interview with the Bears media, he was asked about Matt Nagy, and he paused and he said, that's a question I'll answer after the season. And so he is probably being politically correct now, because he wants to leave the door open to a return to the Chicago Bears, because even in a part-time role, he could fill that 3 tech assignment for the Bears and do it magnificently. If they can work out a deal for somewhere between $4 and $6 million for Akeem Hicks to return, I'll take him at half the snaps than the regular starter would. Eberflus said that he wants 8 defensive linemen because he wants to rotate. He doesn't want to see Khalil Mack dog it downfield on a running play when the guy busts through the line. He wants to see Khalil Mack run down there and try to get the tackle. And so that makes sense. Rest Khalil Mack several downs so that he's fresh at the end of the game. How many times have we seen Khalil Mack just totally fucking tired by the end of the game. So a good rotation of 8 defensive linemen
You
is
sound like Dan Bernstein now. Coach, I'm hurt.
Yeah, I am.
Fuck you. I'm loafing because I'm hurt.
but that's true. I did. Sometimes
No, I'm kidding. But you're right. Mac would be winded by the third or fourth quarter.
Saw it so often.
Yeah. And that's what Obranovich and Hampton would be so critical of, like, given that the money he was receiving, they're like, this dude's got to be in better shape. They said it all the time.
The thing, that people neglect to factor into Mac's play, and I know everybody talks about, he's double teamed and triple teamed on a lot of plays, and that's why he didn't get to the quarterback. But it's also the amount of energy that it sucks from you. Even when somebody just, touches you on the way to the quarterback, just that chip block, as the tight end is going on, even that stuff just happens. You're playing 700 snaps, 900 snaps a year, and you're getting chipped so often. It's hard, man. It's hard on a guy's body. And so I really do hope that if Mac and Quinn return this season, that they limit their snaps. There are 2 other defensive ends on this team who can also provide pass rush help. So, I don't know. And the whole idea of Akeem Hicks definitely not coming to the Bears. I think we should put a hold on that. I think that one of the reasons Hicks is not talking about Matt Nagy yet is because he's hoping maybe he can come back to his favorite city, Chicago. And I wouldn't mind that at all. I think he'd be a great help for this defense.
And let me point out too, when he got signed by the Bears initially, he pointed out that his mom was ecstatic because she's a lifelong Bears fan. So maybe that plays into it too. Like, boy, I want you back with the Bears, so for real. I mean, you can't tell me if your mom was alive and you were able to play on a team and you were on your mom's team, that wouldn't help just give you a little bit added emotion beyond the money.
Mm-hmm. Hey, check out what Robbie says here. Robbie says Eberflus kind of looks like Super Dave. So that's a major plus.
Yeah, I love Curb Your Enthusiasm. He was.
That's right, he was.
Yeah, what was his name on there? Funkhauser. Marty Funkhauser.
That's
was
right.
Super Dave Osborne. Yeah.
He's
funny.
Albert Brooks's real life brother.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're brothers.
Holy
yeah.
fuck. I did not know that.
And Albert Brooks's real name is Albert Einstein.
Get the fuck out of here.
No, I'm serious.
Yeah, Super Dave was Bob Einstein.
Super Dave was Bob Einstein. Brooks, Albert Einstein, and Bob Einstein.
Why would you name
your brothers?
Why would you name your son Albert if his last name is Einstein? Do you
Why not?
keep aware of current events? The Factor has a question for the Tooch. Read that out.
I want to say the league year starts March 30th. I don't know if that's correct though.
You got to read the question for our people.
Oh, sorry, Dan. How long until we hear about the big Bears free agent signings? Around what month do they happen? I believe teams can sign free agents when the league year begins. Isn't that correct?
It's next week where free agency begins. And so what General Manager Ryan Poles has said, he's going to wait till wave 2. And so that means those first 2 days when you're seeing all these big name free agents signed and people on social media saying, what the fuck is the general manager doing? How come he's waiting and so forth? If you haven't been following the news, he told us it's going to be a day or two, at least 2 days. And that's when the value players start popping up. And I'm going to talk about some of those value wave 2 wide receivers momentarily, but I still want to get back to the topic of Aaron Rodgers. Not that this show is about Aaron Rodgers, but he is.
But he is, because he's our nemesis.
Yes, exactly. So do you think, Dan and John, jump in here? Albert Brooks was on the last season of Curb. That is right.
Yeah, he was. He was the COVID hoarder.
That's right.
The woman left him because he was COVID hoarding.
That's right. I saw that episode. That was a good one. Thanks, Jamal, for that. So I want to ask you guys, Dan and then John, what do you think about the signing? Do you think this is ultimately good for this Packers team, or do you think that this can backfire because it's going to put such a stress on the general manager's ability to sign quality players to help Rodgers and the rest of the team play well? Dan, what do you think?
This is so bad for them and for Matt LaFleur and that general manager. They lost. They fucking lost. Remember, they drafted Jordan Love, and they had this, this thing with Rodgers attacking the general manager last offseason. It was a power struggle. And you know what? They lost. He is the boss. He's the boss. He's not going anywhere for 4 years. He got Mike McCarthy fired. I know you don't think very highly of him, but he did win a Super Bowl. So we got to point that out. But he's probably going to get this guy fired too, because that's what he does. He disappoints in the playoffs, He's the guy that gets the woman close to an orgasm and can't make her come. Or what I've heard someone else say on Twitter that I forget who said it, was someone prominently like on ESPN, who said he's the pretty girl that has to be told she's pretty like 8 times a day.
Oh, yes. I forgot who said that. That was a great quote. Hair Bear has a good one, too. She says, why would you spend that much money on a guy that can only beat bad teams? And that's something that Dan pointed out to me when I was telling him about, the guy gets to the playoffs. And Dan pointed out, have you seen his playoff record lately? And I went back and looked at it. I go, yeah, that's not very good.
I mean, if you're Matt LaFleur, he's your boss now.
Mm-hmm.
You're the general man. He's your boss.
Mm-hmm.
And he might as well be the general manager now, too.
Yeah.
I mean, he's Mr. Green Bay now. He got what Brett Favre wanted. Brett Favre wanted them to say, I don't give a fuck if you got this Rodgers kid in the wings or not. I'm your guy.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, well, we're sending you to New York, bro.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, this is bad for the Packers organization and potentially good for us. I know that almost feels like I'm kidding when I say that, but I'm not, because I think for all of us, and especially for the players that are on the team that have been there several years, to finally start getting some wins on this guy is one of the first steps in the right direction, to where okay, our coach is, Eberflus is putting us where we need to be if we can start getting some wins against this bully.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of glad he's still there in that regard, because I want, like, the Bears toward the end started beating Favre under Lovey.
Mm-hmm.
And we had all those years under Wani, we couldn't win. Under Jerron, we couldn't win. And finally, we're beating Favre. And, like, I'll never forget that game at Soldier Field in 05 when they hit him, and they kept showing it in slow motion with the look on his face, the pain, and he was bloodied.
Mm-hmm.
I forget who hit him, like, from the secondary that bloodied him. And, yeah, that's what I want from Rodgers. I want his ass bloodied. I want him to look like Travolta's hands on Pulp Fiction when Samuel L. Jackson's like, motherfucker, are you washing your hands or not? Your hands look like a goddamn maxi pad. Remember the scene in Jimmy's garage after they shot?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the way. That's what I want to see. I want Rodgers beaten down. The league wouldn't have it.
Yeah.
If somebody hit the Golden Boy, we'd get suspended. But man, that's what I want. I want to win so badly. So I'm glad. I honestly am glad he's still here.
Mm-hmm. Hair Bear says, what's stupid is that the Packers were starting to build a decent roster, and now they're going to have to tear it up to appease that smug fuck.
The smug fuck, that's him, man.
That's him. Tooch, what do you think about the signing? You agree with Dan, or you think that this could end up meaning more NFC North titles and shots at the Super Bowl?
Well, I don't know how much the new salary cap is going to let them get away with. Once
the salary cap for this season is set at $208 million, and then season it can explode.
The next season it will explode. So the contract will probably be structured so that when the next season when it explodes, most of the money will probably be on those caps. It might be a lighter number this year. I don't know. Somebody in the chat said it was $46 million this year, but their team will look different. And it means, basically that the Bears and Luke Getsy might have their choice of either Alan Lazard or Marcus Valdez-Scantling, because they probably can't re-sign both.
Mm-hmm.
So you very well could see one of those two Packer receivers on the Bears next year that, can plug right into Luke Getsy's system. So that would be something to look for there. Dan will get his wish to have a shot at dethroning Aaron Rodgers, as he proceeds in age and declines in skill. And then we aren't getting rid of Aaron Rodgers. Looks like we might get rid of Kirk Cousins. He's being offered up for trade.
I did not hear that. Is that
yeah, today the news broke that the Vikings are listening to offers for Kirk Cousins.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's my point too. a few minutes ago, Aldo, I said, let me make you happy.
Mm-hmm.
The schedule's easier. At least we're not locked in on this Rodgers deal. At the back end, I know Brady played to 44, but that is an aberration. And Rodgers is 39. I mean, are going to be 39 or maybe 38, 39. Either way,
he's 39.
This is gonna be deep into his 40s when this deal's over.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not stuck with Kirk Cousins' $30 million deal either.
Mm-hmm.
So the Bears are in so much better shape with Justin Fields than with these other two contracts. And dare I say, I'm happier with Fields than the Russell Wilson deal.
Mm-hmm.
Because we didn't have to give up so many people. Now, granted, we gave up 2 first-round picks, but we didn't have to give up half the goddamn roster that Denver did to get a man who's going to be 33 or 34. We've got a kid who's like 24.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go win with him, man.
And Dan, if Justin Fields is everything we think he is, then we should eventually beat Rodgers with Fields. That's
exactly the
natural
passing of the torch.
Exactly. I ran a
I'm
poll.
going to jack off just thinking about that right now. I'll be right back.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
We'll see you in 10 seconds.
Oh, thank you.
Well, I ran a poll on Twitter today, and lose Jamal there for a second there, Dan, so we could read this. Bears fans, are you displeased that Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams are back in Green Bay, or do you welcome the opportunity to take ownership of the North with those two in the division? 31% said they wish that those two guys would just go away. But 68% said, bring them on. And I am with that 68%. I want to beat Aaron Rodgers. That to me, it will always be a bitter taste in my mouth as a Chicago sports fan, as a Chicago Bears lover, if we don't do the same thing to Rodgers that we did to Favre, because we beat his ass the last several meetings. We fucking destroyed Brett Favre, and that's what I want. I want these next 6 meetings that he's going to have under this contract with Green Bay Packers. I want the Bears to win all 6 of them, and if not, at least 5 of them, because I got to give the new Bears a little time to get going. So
think about this, Aldo.
Mm-hmm.
The last year Favre was the Packers quarterback, the Bears swept them, and that's the last time the Bears have swept the Packers.
Look at that. Look at
07.
It's 5 years, $200 million, right? Was the deal?
I thought it was 4.
4 years, 4 years, $200 million.
I had it wrong. I had 3 years, and why is that? Because somebody signed for 3 years. Oh, Mike Williams, the wide receiver, which distressed me, but that's another story. That
I want to point out too, real quick, before the contract talk, with regards to your poll.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so sick of this guy and everything he represents and everything he stands for and all that shit with his family and just being a bitch to everybody. And, now he's been sucking up in the offseason, like officiating a wedding and trying to be a decent guy just so they give him this contract. But if you're talking about the person or the personality that is Aaron Rodgers, I wish that he would be exiled. I wish he would have retired. I wish that he would get sent to the Ukraine. Like, that's how much I hate him. I don't want to deal with him or see him or the smug fuck ever again. But if you're talking about the player,
mm-hmm.
I want his ass beaten in the ring, man.
Yes.
So I'm glad he's back in that regard. I just hate dealing with all the other stuff as a fan, all the worship that comes from the NFL and the Chris Collinsworths, and you can't avoid it. If you're watching a game, you can't avoid it, and it just makes me nauseous.
You know what's weird is that over the last 2 years or so that Dan and I have been communicating so much, we text each other a lot and so forth. He would use words like, I hate fucking Aaron Rodgers, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, that's some strong language. He's just a quarterback in the National Football. Hate is a strong emotion.
I stand by that.
I know you do. But after a while, I'm starting to think, you know what? I hate the motherfucker too. I'm with you. Now, you say you hate Patrick Mahomes, and I will never hate Patrick Mahomes because I think the adulation that he gets is no fault of his own. He's done some tremendous stuff, and he's done nothing wrong, like Rodgers has lied to the public health issues and stuff like that. I can understand hating a guy like that, but hating Patrick Mahomes because
you're right. I use the word hate too loosely then with Mahomes.
Dan
I just like him
Mahomes.
because what he represents to the media. and maybe that's out of envy and all that, but I hate Aaron Rodgers.
And I don't blame you. They're just laughing at both of us, I think.
How good is Aaron Rodgers going to be in the final 2 years of that contract, though? He'll be, what, 43, 44?
Well, if he keeps getting those colon cleanses or whatever the hell he's doing, maybe he's going to last as long as Tom Brady, because I think that's why Tom Brady lasted long as those colon cleanses.
Sign me up.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
Aldo and I are about 15 years past due on those colon.
Oh yeah, I'm actually going in for a colonoscopy in May. So
oh, nice. My favorite part is the cocktail right before you go under.
Oh yeah, you'd be shitting for hours.
7 minutes of euphoria. 7 seconds. 7 seconds of fentanyl high.
Dan, you ever had a colonoscopy?
No, I know that it's got to be something I need to do sooner than later. Yep. But when I turned 40, it was, the height of COVID and all that, and the people were still in lockdown. So there was no way I was going to this is even before I got the vaccination. Mm-hmm. So there was no way I was going to the doctor unless I was fucking sick, But now I need to be responsible and do that. But
there's a couple of people in the chat room who have volunteered to give you the colonoscopy.
Maybe in the fall or something. I don't know. I need to get this done sooner than later, but I haven't done it yet. Yeah, I'll be 42 on Halloween, so I know that that's something I need to do.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Can Howard Stern get that cum lady to give Dan a colonoscopy?
Oh man, give Debbie the cum lady. As good as her body is in the face, she looks like Dog the Bounty Hunter. But I would let her do it, though.
All right, so for people who don't listen to Howard Stern, what are you guys talking about?
Though, Aldo?
Okay, I'll tell you the story, and it's worth subscribing to Sirius. That's how good the story is. So they got this guy who's got a tiny fucking micro penis. I've not seen it, but allegedly he has this tiny ass, and consequently, because he's got such a little dick, he can't get any ass. So he's slept with men over the years because, if you couldn't get any pussy at all, it's like being in jail. Mm-hmm. I guess at some point you desperately need human contact. I don't know. Thankfully, I never had to deal with this. Mm-hmm. But so he says he's not gay, but they say, well, you probably won't be able to come to this lady or anybody because you do like men and you're not cognizant of it. You're not aware that how gay you really are. Mm-hmm. And then some people are saying he's on so many pills that he can't get hard anyway. Because he's on, he's got diabetes or whatever the fuck. He's just so out of shape kind of thing. So I don't know. So Debbie the cum lady, her whole thing is to say that her passion in life is to swallow semen. She says it's better than getting her pussy eaten out. It's better than getting fucked. That's her thing. She says it tastes like sugar to her. And she just loves cum. But she says like she's afraid now that if she can't get this guy to come, it will hurt her self-esteem. So she says she's gonna, put a finger in his ass, gonna eat his ass, gonna suck his dick. She's trying to do the improbable, make this guy come, which I don't know why. It seems like if he never really been with the woman, that he'd look down and see her and be like, oh my God, and come quick. And they've got a fake guy that impersonates Dan Rather, who's he's like, I saw the killing fields in Cambodia, but I don't know if I can accept this assignment. Have you seen this man's ass? It's so funny. He's like, I saw children with their faces melted by Agent Orange, but I don't think I can deal with seeing Eric's big, gaping, disgusting asshole.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and he said something like, I have this nightmare, Howard, if I accidentally make eye contact with Eric when he ejaculates. So it's finally going to happen. It's supposed to be on Monday that he's flying down. They've been talking about this for years. I wasn't listening regularly. Mm-hmm. I watched Stern on E back in the 90s and kind of got away from him. Mm-hmm. But
me too.
Yeah, so they've been talking about this since like 18, and now it's finally going to happen. See, I kept hearing them talk about it like on road trips, like the Bears-Pittsburgh game, Bears-Cleveland, listening to Stern on the way and stuff. But it's finally going to happen allegedly on Monday. Debbie the cum lady is going to try to make the micro penis Eric, his name, they call him High Pitch Eric. Going to try to make him come. He said, the Stern had a joke. He said, Joe Biden has declared Monday a national holiday. Everybody wants to know, will she make him come? And I'm on the edge of my fucking seat.
Yep. PJ says, Dan's a good storyteller. Get a radio station where he talks porn. Yeah, you should get a job on Sirius XM, just talking porn and talking, whatever the fuck you want to talk about. You are an excellent storyteller, Dan.
I think I am too, if you have an attention span.
Yeah, because you can be a little long-winded. I mean, John had no beard when you started. Now he's got a full-length beard. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about the free agency wide receivers. What time is it? It is 9? Yeah, so, and then after that, we'll talk about Cosby and whatever other programming or whatever other questions you get. But it is important to note that the Chicago Bears have said that they are going to bypass to wave one wide receivers. And so it is, I mean, those weren't the exact words. Let's listen to Ryan Poles. I still have his soundbite here from last week where he was talking about free agency. And where is he? Here it is. Ryan Poles talking on the value of the second wave of free agents.
You're going to have some players that they're motivated. They got a chip on their shoulder. And they want to get back to free agency and go at it again, so they play with a purpose. And I've mentioned this before, but it's very hard to stay super motivated. You got to be a special human being to be in that first wave and keep going. You want your name etched in the stadium. That's what kind of mentality you got to have. So I definitely think there's a lot of good value down there. Plus, like I said, the mentality comes with it.
So what players kind of fit under that mold based on the available free agents out there? So, for instance, Kirsten Kirk, he's kind of a borderline wave one, wave two. I kind of think he's a wave one free agent just simply because of the fact that it's a limited free agent wide receiver core. Kirsten Kirk caught 83 passes for over 1,000 yards. 256 of those were for yards after catch, and I included stats on with the yak categorization because I think that's the definition of a playmaker. Guys that catch the ball and then they gain yards after the catch. Now, Juju Smith-Schuster is a guy who I think could fall under that wave two because I think he only played like 6 games in the past season. And so he's got a chip on his shoulder. He wants to prove him to the NFL that he's worthy of a $20-25 million a year type contract. In 2020, he had 110 catches, 446 yak yards, 4.1 average. Excellent numbers. He would fit in perfectly with the Bears, but can the Bears afford him? Because if he's going to demand wave $1, the Bears are not going to sign him for 16, 17, 18, 20 million dollars. Just no way.
Let me throw a name out at you.
Please do.
What if Dallas cuts Amari Cooper?
See, that's one because he's due to make $20 million this season. So you'd have to negotiate a deal, a 1-year deal, a prove it kind of deal. But there's going to be so many bidders for Amari Cooper that I think you'd have to bid something in the order of $15 million for one season. Do you want to pay that?
I think he's a lot better than Robinson. Allen, I mean.
What do you think, Tooch?
They're kind of different players. Robinson's big. He's not as fast as Amari Cooper. And then Amari Cooper has like the potential for, catching a 50-yard touchdown, taking it to the house. He's got a lot more speed than Robinson, but yeah, he's on $100 million deal right now. If they cut, he'll be expensive. He has periods or games where he kind of just disappears though too. Amari Cooper. Where he'll have his monster game, and then the next game might have 3 catches for 38 yards. So
I totally agree with.
Where did he go? But I don't know. It might be worth. I don't know. I don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze.
Right. The word is that the Cowboys are putting more value on signing Michael Gallup, who is injured with an ACL. They're putting more value on signing him and perhaps allowing Cooper to go either via trade or just dropping him. So that's something to keep an eye on. If he does hit free agency, then the Bears obviously are obligated to talk to the Cowboys and see, to Cooper's agent and see what he's asking for. And if you can sign him for $12 million for a 1-season deal, I don't think that's a bad deal. But anything around the 15+ million, absolutely not. So here are the two biggest wide receiver free agents of Wave 2 signings in 2021 are Cordero Patterson and Kendrick Bourne. Both of those guys were the best value signings from the wide receiver position in last year's free agency. Those are two guys you wouldn't have expected would have good years in 2021, but they did, and they represented, according to Bucky Brooks of NFL.com, he was in his top 10. These two guys were in his top 10 list of value signings from last year. So let's look at the guys who could potentially.
Those guys were in great situations, though. Let's not forget.
Absolutely.
Julio Jones was gone from the Falcons, and Cordero Patterson was used in a bunch of different ways, not just as a wide receiver, but as a running back. And Kendrick Bourne went to New England where they had nobody. He kind of fell into the number one wide receiver role. He was lost in San Francisco with all the guys they had there. They had Goodwin and Ayuk and Deebo Samuel.
Hey, you two, go outside and play.
The fuck was that?
Was that me?
No, it's me.
Okay.
But you're absolutely
sound
right.
like that Valtrex commercial or something.
Yeah. But you're absolutely right. Kendrick Bourne, perfect situation with him. But, that's kind of the situation here in Chicago. If you believe what the Bears are going to do, they're going to create offense that suits players. And there's really only one wide receiver on the team right now. It's Darnell Mooney. And the rookie that they have,
Daz
Newsome, he could potentially be a good wide receiver, but you can't count on him. You got to get some good signings.
There's virtually a sign outside of House Hall, help wanted at wide receiver.
Absolutely.
Nobody, man.
It's a beautiful neon sign.
There might be a sign out there, help wanted.
Exactly. So
Musa Muhammad would say that's where wide receivers go to die.
Exactly. Right. Musa Muhammad is throwing rocks at that sign.
Does Dan have a Musa Muhammad jersey? Just out of curiosity.
I do. It's authentic.
I knew it.
I love it. All right. So one name, obviously, is DJ Chark, the guy from the Jacksonville Jaguars. A career average of 3.7 yak. Drops are a problem for DJ, but he's got exceptional speed. He was injured last season, so he probably has a large chip on his shoulder because he was progressing to be one of those top tier 1 receivers. And so he's going to be looking for a good deal, a good opportunity where he could come in and be the number 1 receiver. You could sell him. I'm saying you and Darnell Mooney, number 1 and number 2, with Justin Fields throwing you the ball. That could be a great signing. DJ Chark, 6'4" wide receiver with blazing speed. Danny and I saw him at the Senior Bowl. He won the Offensive Player of the Year award, or a Player of the Game award that day. And so we were like looking at each other, man, he'd be great on the Bears. Now he's available as a free agent. So that's somebody to take a look at. Now, the guy from Green Bay, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, in 4 seasons, he was tied for 5th in the league with 9 receptions of 40+ yards. That's a playmaker. That's a big-time playmaker.
Oh, yeah. I talked about him last week.
You did. And most of that production came in 2020. What I don't like about Marquez, which I would put him lower on my list, is he had Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback. Why aren't his numbers even more prolific? And I think part of that is because Rodgers tends to favor Devontae Adams way too much, and I think that actually hurts their offense, specifically on big games where defensive coordinators have a lot of time to prepare. So I'm a little bit iffy on MVS. Now, the one guy that I really like a lot from Green Bay is Allen Lazard. He had 8 touchdowns in 2021 for the Packers. That's the most of any available free agents. That's the most. He's a
dude.
He's a guy. He's a great blocker, 6'4", 6'5".
And he's thick.
He is very, very thick.
He went to high school right down the road here, Urbandale, Iowa.
Oh,
Iowa
cool.
State kid. Yeah, Ames about 35 minutes from here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm happy with either of those guys, Lazard or Scantling.
Well, we need so much help. We could get 2 or 3 of these guys. But the thing about Lazard is that he is a restricted free agent, so I'm not sure he's going to even be available. I think what the Packers are going to do is sign him to a second round tender, because as a free agent you're offered tender contracts, and so a second round tender means it's a contract that's worth $3.5 million, and if the Bears match that, then Bears would have to give up a second round pick. And I think it would be next year. Greg Gabriel says that if it's a third round tender, sign him up. I say even a third round tender, I'd be a little cautious about that. Yeah. But one guy I'm really high on, and Tooch tells me he is too, is Cedric Wilson of the Dallas Cowboys. This guy had 6 touchdown catches last year, 600 yards, 283 yak yards for almost a 6.0 average on yards after the catch. This guy is an ascending player. This guy is a dude to keep an eye on no matter what team he ends up with, and I would love to see him with the Chicago Bears. A couple more guys here. I got 3 more, I think. Russell Gage with the Atlanta Falcons. He had 4 touchdowns last season. First half of the season, he was injured, and then other injuries. When he came back, the Falcons had some other injuries at the wide receiver position, so he essentially was elevated to the number 1 wide receiver. And I know Tooch knows all this because Tooch is a fantasy football expert. Well, he ended up with 66 receptions for 770 yards, 255 yak yards, 4 yards per average. He would be, I think, a valuable guy that you could get at a good deal away to sign.
We need bodies.
We need bodies. And I would love to get a number 1 wide receiver. I would like to get Chris Godwin, but Chris Godwin, even with his ACL injury, is getting the franchise tag from the Bucks, so he's not available. We're not going to get any of these guys. It just doesn't seem that way.
The closest we're getting to a 1 receiver would probably be Juju Smith-Schuster, and even he's going to be expensive.
Exactly.
People are talking about Odell Beckham Jr. He's not going to even be ready until middle of the season.
Exactly.
I don't want Beckham. Let me just say that now.
Why is that, Dan?
I've been quiet. I like Juju Smith-Schuster from Pittsburgh.
I always liked him.
He's a stud. The only thing you have to be worried about is he going to come back from his injury and play at a high level. I think he will, and I think he wants to prove to everybody that he's a tier 1 receiver. So Juju's definitely on my radar. Now, Brian Pringle, he had 5 touchdowns, 220 yak. In 2021, Pringle played 49% of the Chiefs' offensive snaps and had career best in receptions, 42 yards, 568, and touchdowns, 5. So if he were to play 80% of the snaps with the Chicago Bears, could he potentially have 8 touchdown passes? 67
as well.
Exactly. Right. So a lot. When I bring up Brian Pringle's name, a lot of people scoff at it, but trust me, this guy is an ascending player, and he's got a contract, by the way, with Pringle's potato chips. So
does he really?
Yes, he does.
Wow, nice. He also returns kicks.
So there's value there. And if you don't re-sign Grant, I was going to say Jakeem Grant.
I love Jakeem Grant. Or is that his
Jakeem.
name?
Yeah, if you can't bring Grant back, maybe you have Cohen doing the kickoff return or punt return, because hopefully
Cohen's going to play again. I have my doubts.
Maybe he's gone, but maybe he's back. I'm saying hypothetically,
sure.
If you can't bring Grant back, it might. The reason I'm saying that is if we sign Smith-Schuster, I don't want him returning kicks, man. I want you to be taking the top off the defense.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Don't get hurt returning kicks.
My
last guy is Juwan Jennings. I was talking to Tooch before we went live. 24 regular season receptions for the San Francisco 49ers. 15 of those receptions earned the 49ers a first down. That's key.
You got to see him in the playoffs.
Yep, exactly.
A glimpse. Yep.
Exactly. He tied for 3rd among all available free agents with his 5 touchdowns. He had as many touchdown passes as Kirsten Kirk. And he played limited time. He was the 3rd wide receiver for the 49ers at about the midway of the season. This is the guy I want. Big body, big, huge guy, can block downfield, big playmaker, makes a lot of things. This guy is a guy that moves the chains. Fred Warner, his teammate with San Francisco, said, Juwan Jennings is one of the best players in the NFL that people don't know. This is a guy to keep an eye on. Look at some tape with this guy, and I bet you the Bears have this guy high up on their free agent target.
I hope so, because I mean, San Francisco's got Ayuk and Samuel, you know, and would they be smart to re-sign Juwan Jennings? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder. I want to ask you though, if you think maybe there are other teams have him rated high as well, you know, and he might not be a second wave free agent. He might take a deal on the first wave. You know,
Yeah,
that's my fear.
I doubt it, but maybe you're right, given that there aren't that many first wave free agents to begin with. You know, he could be signed on day one of free agency. And if that's the case, then I think Ryan Poles' strategy of waiting for value, you know, might not have paid off, but we'll see.
It's the kind of move that really makes a season if he turns out to be, you know, as productive as, say, someone like Juju Smith-Schuster or DJ Chark or even Allen Robinson. You have to do, because we were talking about Mike Williams from the Chargers. This guy's probably a pretty good comp to Mike Williams, you know, about the same size, you know, big body, fast. You know, Mike Williams is like 6'5", 230. You know, Juwan Jennings is a big guy like that. I don't know if he goes 230, but he's the kind of guy that he's the kind of guy that could turn into a Mike Williams for you. You know, close,
absolutely,
getting you close to number one wide receiver numbers, and you know, a boatload of touchdowns. You know, if you're down close in the red zone, you know, he's a big target.
Indeed. So that's my wide receiver report. A lot of big decisions to come up, and it all starts next week. I think next week on Tuesday, Dan, when we're on, John, I think that's the last day of the illegal tampering period. So we'll be getting reports that this guy is going to sign with this team and so forth, because every year that's the case. Before the actual free agency happens, the reports are already coming in that this guy's going to sign with this team and so forth. So we're going to have a very fucking busy show next week, keeping a track of all that. But I wanted to see what was available there and what kind of candidates could be available to Ryan Poles in Wave 2. And I'm starting to get worried, man, that we got to figure out a way to get some more draft picks, because that could be a really big solution to some of our problems. This draft is really deep, Dan, with guys who are like second tier talents. Like Daniel Jeremiah was saying that after the first 10 picks or so, the 11th through the middle of the third round, late third round, that all those guys are almost interchangeable. They're so closely graded on so many boards that some teams might have a third rounder up on the first round and it be completely flipped for a different team. That's the kind of draft that we're having. And this would be a great draft to have two second rounders or two third rounders.
And Mike Williams signed a 3-year, $60 million deal with the Chargers today.
That's right.
He is not available. But
he is gone. He's a goner.
Juwan Jennings is available. Make Aldo and I very happy.
Yes, that would make me so fucking happy.
I love a young guy, just, you know, nobody under the radar.
Let me add a couple names to you. I maybe I'm wrong, but I think that they were free agents. Damiere Byrd. Yeah, I know that doesn't sound like electricity. He dropped a lot of passes, it seemed, but he had a great catch in Seattle. He had a touchdown against Green Bay. Do we bring him back? And what about Marquise Goodwin? I assume that they're both available, so they're at least something you got to look at because they were in your building.
You know, those are the kinds of guys that they should go to Justin Fields and say, what do you think about these guys? Now, seriously, I need your professional opinion. Do you think you can establish a rapport? We're trying to find you guys that you are comfortable with, so that when it's 3rd down and 8 and the pressure is coming, that you look downfield and you see that Darnell Mooney is totally covered. Who's going to be your second option? Is it going to be Byrd? Is it going to be Goodwin, or should I find somebody else? That's the kind of questions I would be posing to Justin Fields to see if he has a connection with any of these guys. And I would bring up A-Rob too. If he says, no, man, you got to bring A-Rob back. I know A-Rob and I can get it back together. I can get him to 100 catches and so forth.
But didn't it seem like they didn't really have chemistry? It felt like it was he and Mooney were tight, but not Robinson at all.
Totally agree. And I know a lot of people have said, you know, Allen Robinson checked out last season. and as time goes on, I start to think about it. Maybe he did, man. Maybe, because of the injuries that he suffered, and he knew
the bald fuck
fucked him over and stuff. Maybe it impacted his play. But he's still going to.
It would be hard not for your morale to be hurt. Although the flip side of that is you're getting your game checks, and you should be wanting to win and get your new contract. So there's no way we'll know the answer to this, but the true answer is probably somewhere in the middle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you want to get,
and if you put yourself in his position, like I said, it's just hard when you no one respects the coach, and you just feel like they don't want you here, in spite of giving you that money. I mean, at the end of the day, your employer only has to sign your checks, and they can treat you like shit, and you have to take it. However, all of us want to be liked and respected by our employer, and if he didn't feel like he was, it just makes him a man to feel like, why am I here? Because any of us would feel the same way if our employer just was so apathetic about us, the way Matt Nagy was about him.
Bear Truth 9 says that this year, Ryan Poles and his coaching staff, their job is to add and build a strong core. And next year is when you will have a better idea of what you got, and then really focus
they don't have
on
a choice.
players. Yeah, it is that way. But I think Bear Truth 9, if I can add my own thought to that, is make sure, first and foremost, that you come out of free agency in the draft with an offensive line that people are going to go, holy fuck. Fucking Fields is going to have time to throw, and whoever is running that ball is going to have big holes and stuff. So that is the key thing, I think, is let's keep this quarterback healthy. There were too many times in his rookie season where I saw him get hit, and I said, okay, it's fucking over. He's going to be like Jay Williams, the Chicago Bulls #1 draft pick from a few years ago, who gets into
RG3
or RG3. These great potential players with great potential who are injured, and that happened a number of times. And some of the hits that he took are just not healthy, man. So hits to the head and stuff. We don't want that for our quarterback. We want to give him clean pockets, time to make decisions, and so forth. So that's the highest priority.
He knows that.
Yes, and you're absolutely right, Tooch. When it comes to that,
I would really like to see the Bears focus on the slot receiver position, get a guy that's, just a slot receiver. Like, I don't know if you know who Hunter Renfrow is. He's on the Raiders. Just a guy that he just gets open underneath, moves the chains, a guy really hard to cover in that short area and short time. And this is a position that Brady and the Patriots made famous with guys like Wes Welker and Julian Edelman, little guys, shifty guys. The Jets had Jamison Crowder, and they got another guy named Braxton Berrios. I'd like to see the Bears give him a shot. He'd be pretty cheap. He could be like one of those little underneath guys, just moving the chains, making, getting 5, 6, 7, 8 catches a game, that make a difference. That's what I would like to
Another
see.
guy for you, Tooch. I'm not advocating for him, but I keep seeing that he's going to get cut. Is Beasley from Buffalo that used to play at the Cowboys.
Yeah. The guy who would not
anti-vaxxer.
Yeah, the anti-vaxxer.
I didn't say I was advocating for him.
No, I know. I wouldn't hold that against him. That fuck, the guy can play. He'd be a great slot receiver. He could catch you 60, 70, 80 passes a season.
How old is he now, though?
That's a good question. Let me look it up.
He was in. You remember the last game Brandon Marshall played with the Bears, and he got hurt in a primetime game, and he was so mad that Cutler didn't see him in the hospital on a Thursday night in 2014. Cole Beasley was with Dallas then. Because I'm pretty sure he caught a touchdown that night because he had really long hair back then. Because that's the first time I remember ever seeing him. I was like, who is this long-haired fuck, this white guy? Who is this fucking guy? He can't be any good, but he was pretty good. But my point is, this guy's got to be like 32, right?
That's exactly correct. 32 years old.
Right? Yeah, I wouldn't sign him. I mean, not because of his politics. It's not. I just think for wide receiver, 32 is getting there, I
don't know. I mean,
unless you're Jerry Rice.
You know what is going on in sports, and we saw it at the combine. I'm watching the defensive backs run the 40, and it's 4.4 something, 4.4 something, 4.4 something, 4.4 something. I asked Greg, was that track really fast at Indianapolis? Because these guys were all running so fucking fast. There was that defensive lineman was 6'4", 350 pounds, and he ran a 4.8. And Greg said, no, it's all the nutrition and new workout things. And these guys are just working out to run fast 40s. It's all of that's going on. And a guy like Cole Beasley, I know he's not taking his vaccinations, but hopefully he's staying in shape and probably can play another 2-3 years. Those kinds of slot receivers who catch balls over the middle, move the chains, go down before any serious contact, those guys can play for a few years. So I don't know.
Well, I mean, maybe you're right. I just feel like a wide receiver, unless you're really, really special, the Tim Browns or the Jerry Rice, the Hall of Famers that play a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
It just, a lot of guys start to become guys around 32.
Mm-hmm.
32, 33, 34. Wide receivers, it's hard for them to maintain the explosiveness at that position, plus the beating they're taking.
Right. And by the way, I'm only advocating a Cole Beasley contract of a year. It's a year, catch some passes, get the fuck out of here. Because we do need to get some bridge players. In 2023, when we have our full allotment of draft picks, we'll have plenty of money in the salary cap, barring something unforeseen. That's when we're going to be able to make some major acquisitions. Right now, what we need to do is make sure we keep Justin Fields safe. That is the number one priority. That's what all of your thinking should be dedicated to first and foremost. Yes, you need to get him some weapons at the wide receiver position, but you ain't going to have time to throw to those guys unless you're keeping him safe. So that's my number one priority.
Number two would be like, listen, David, none of this bullshit with the bald fuck. Get ready to run the ball, pal.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Montgomery, you're going to be our guy. Right. You're going to be, it's not 1977 Walter Payton, but goddamn it, it's 2022 David Montgomery. Let's go. We're going to run the ball a lot to keep number one healthy. And he's capable.
A lot of talk today about, given that the Seahawks now are in a fire sale kind of thing. They traded away Russell Wilson. They're trying to acquire draft picks and assets to rebuild their team. So what do you do with DK Metcalf, who has 1 year left on his contract and is probably going to be demanding a $15 to $25 million contract this season?
They're going to want a first-round pick for him.
Right. So, but do you call Seattle and say, all right, we'll give you our second-round draft pick because we don't have a first-rounder, and we'll give you David Montgomery because you guys don't have a running back? No, because we need a lineman in the second round more than likely. And for fuck's sake, David Montgomery is a stud. I believe in this guy. I want him re-signed. I think he is our guy for the next 5 years. Other than Fields, he's our guy. I'm sold on him. Like, I want to buy his jersey, but I don't because I'm afraid he'll be gone after this season. I'm probably going to get it.
I love DK. I love David Montgomery. Don't get me wrong. He's an Iowa State guy, but DK Metcalf is an animal. He's big, he's fast, he's got decent hands. He's just another thing altogether. He's young, he's fast. I don't know.
And then the other thing to keep in mind is that this is Montgomery's last year on his contract. And
that's what I said. I want him re-signed.
So will you pay $9 million, $10 million to David Montgomery when running backs have become so interchangeable? You saw what Khalil Herbert did when he stepped in from Montgomery.
I don't know what we have to do. I'm not Ryan Poles, but I want 32 and 58 re-signed before they hit the market. I want them to receive extensions this year so we can just not worry about Roquan or Mr. Montgomery leaving in 2023. Make that happen.
Now, Hugh Evans in the chat says Metcalf drops too many passes and has concentration and discipline issues. Absolutely correct.
He also gets a lot of passes thrown to him.
Well, yeah.
Over 100 targets.
A big play machine. Exactly.
Yeah.
But
I'm not doubting Metcalf being a phenomenal acquisition, but not at the price of giving up our which would be our first pick of the draft, even though it's a second rounder, as you know, and our stud running back. No, man, no.
All right.
I know. I mean, I love David Montgomery. Don't get me wrong. I love him. But, man, you can find running backs in this draft every year, you know?
Exactly.
Well, we've had the Alshon Jeffries and even Brandon Marshall. We've had stud wide receivers, and yet here we are still having not won a playoff game since 2010. I think David Montgomery,
isn't a diva, though, right?
utilized appropriately, can help us get there.
Mm-hmm.
All wide receivers are divas. Right?
That is true. It's hard to find one that's not.
Yeah.
All right. So
Tom Waddle.
No. Yeah. That's a good one, but you had to go back 50 years. So no to DK Metcalf, you say, but what about if Seattle says, well, he will trade you Tyler Lockett for those two guys?
No, I don't want to trade Montgomery. To me, Montgomery, Fields, and Roquan are probably the three guys on the team I say we're not trading.
Untouchables.
Not untouchable.
They're the three best players on the team.
Fields is untouchable, period. We're not getting rid of number one if I'm the general manager. But the other two guys, you're going to have to give me a stupid deal to get them that you're not going to want to give up. So don't even worry about it. Now, if you're talking about giving up Mac, and again, I want Khalil back. If you're talking about them taking on Mac, his contract, and giving us Metcalf straight up, then I'm talking to you.
All right. And I'm not arguing with you. I just think it's a interesting topic.
What does Greg Gabriel think about Montgomery? Do you know?
He loves David Montgomery, but I'll ask him the next time we do a show together if he thinks David Montgomery should not be traded to add more draft picks. Because here's the thing: you trade a guy like David Montgomery, you got to replace him. So you're going to use the draft pick you acquire to probably replace him. And so that, to me, seems like a no-win situation for you.
Yeah, this guy is a stud, man. Sometimes I'm not going to say Khalil Herbert isn't going to be productive for the Bears, but I'm just saying I really believe in Montgomery, and like I even think he's better than Matt Forte. I think Forte was just a guy who could catch screen passes, but he couldn't run with power. And I think he's our best back.
He had long speed, though, Forte.
Yeah, Forte
could take it to the house.
Forte would be even better in today's NFL than he was, and he was damn good with the Bears back in those Trestman years.
But he wasn't running with power, though.
He's not a power back.
No, he wasn't a power back. No.
He was good at catching passes like Marshall Faulk out of the backfield on wheel routes and things like that, or screens, and taking it all the way.
Exactly.
I don't want to take anything away from 22. I'm just saying that the point is, like, in terms of being able to run the ball and run your ass over, he's our best back since Thomas Jones.
True. I will ask him that question, Hair Bear. The thing about Forte is that the Bears always seemed, at least, and Dan will remember this more than anybody else, is they always appeared to get a power back to back them up. Michael Bush, who was the guy who ran out of
Chester
bounds?
Taylor.
Yeah, Chester Taylor.
Marion Barber is who you're about to say.
That fuck.
He ran out of bounds.
Game in Denver. I don't know what he was doing.
He didn't want to get hit. That's what he was doing.
Yeah, man. Looking like Franco Harris with the Seahawks there, running out of bounds.
Yep. And then the other thing I wanted to make sure to talk about here is Tariq, because you mentioned his name, Dan. It appears to me, and credit, I was listening to, who was it? Lauren Cox on his Locked On podcast. He said that he heard on a podcast that Tariq Cohen was a guest on, that Tariq said, I'm not going to step out into the field until I feel 100%. When I plant my foot and I'm not concerned that there's something going to go wrong. So perhaps what is going on with Tariq Cohen is that he is being the delay. He personally, because he just doesn't feel right. And perhaps that's why Ryan Poles chose not to talk about Tariq's health, because this might be more of a mental thing. A lot of times players who have had injuries sometimes are hesitant to make the moves that they used to before because they think they're not ready yet. And sometimes you just have to say, fuck it, I'm going to try it.
And that doesn't make him, let me stress this too, that doesn't make Tariq a pussy, or doesn't mean that he's lost his fire. But like you said, it's just he has to be able to trust his body, and he can't be worried about what if I make a cut and it goes again. So mentally, he has to be ready before he steps on the field. I get that, but that's a big problem for us to have, unfortunately, if you're talking about 2 full years almost when the season starts, that is, since he got hurt. If he's still not ready, man, if you're still not ready, you might have to retire by that point. And I hate to say that because I liked him, man. He's a middle round pick, a small guy who's overcome all these like odds. You know, you're 5'6", 5'7". You're not supposed to make a mark in the league. And early on in his run, he did. He was running the ball, catching the ball, just explosive, man. And so you root for guys like that. And I'm glad he got paid for his own. Yeah, again, it's a bad deal for the Bears, but fuck it, they got money. So I'm glad that for Cohen's sake, he got paid. Let's just hope he's able to trust his body. I would like to see him back in running kicks and looking like the Cohen that we knew. Don't forget, in that playoff game against Philly, the classic game that we lost because of Parkey. But what happened to set up that game, what would have been our game-winning drive? Because at that season, Cohen was only returning punts. But at the end of the game, after Philly scored, they put Cohen back there, and he returned a kick almost to midfield. And he's Dennis Gentry in that regard. He, at least before, he could be like Patterson, Cordero Patterson, somebody that's just a spark plug returning kicks. So even if that's all he did, if he could return, I think that's big. But if he can't trust his body, he may have to retire.
It was Sylvester texting me.
Sylvester.
Good. I'm glad I got you all hooked up.
Yeah. Cody in the chat room was wondering if Tooch was texting the cum lady.
Setting up Dan's colonoscopy, making the appointment with the cum lady.
Would you rather be awake during the colonoscopy, Dan?
I've never been put to sleep, so I don't know. I do have some fear about that, but I also feel like somebody probing my asshole would probably terribly hurt. So I don't know.
You know, when I got my, this is going to be my third colonoscopy. When I got my first one, apparently my blood pressure went up. And I didn't know what the fuck was going on because I was dead asleep. But when I came to the nurses were like, "We thought we lost you, man." And I'm like, "What?
Oh my God."
Yeah, exactly. What do you mean you thought you lost me? Yeah, your blood pressure went really up. You had it scurrying around there for a moment. I go, should you be telling me this? Because now I'm not sure I ever want to come back here again.
What brought it down? Did they tell that to give you some kind of medicine? Or?
No, they just, I forgot what they said, but it wasn't as dramatic as she made it seem.
It sure fucking sounds dramatic.
Exactly. When I asked my doctor about it, he goes, she's exaggerating. You're fine. It went up for a little while and we got it under control. And so I was just like, I don't want to ask anything else. How's my asshole looking? And he goes, "Oh, it looks good. We had a polyp in there. We got rid of it and you're good to go."
Even the word polyp makes you want to vomit.
I know.
Like, oh, fuck, a polyp.
Yeah, how the fuck did a polyp get in my asshole? Who the hell's been up there? What the hell is going on when I'm asleep in this house?
Wait till you get hemorrhoids. You know, those are fun too. You get those things rubber banded. You can't sit for 48 hours.
Yes. Dan, you got any hemorrhoids?
No, if they do, I guess don't we all have them? But they're just internal, right? But
yeah,
the way that they get inflamed is when we say, "Oh, we've got hemorrhoids," right? Isn't that how it is?
Yes.
Yeah. So I've never had an inflamed hemorrhoids at all. Like I've never had any problems out on my ass. I've never had God, let me knock on wood, as they say. I've never had a kidney stone. I've never had any problems with my ass or, so I'm good in that regard. Never had a catheter. Fuck, I never want a catheter.
Yeah,
never. I don't want one of those fucking things put in my urethra at all.
If I ever have to get a catheter, that's it, guys. See ya. Who wants to borrow them? You can have it.
Fuck, man, for real.
I had hernia surgery. I had hernia surgery.
Oh yeah.
And I was so numb down there, and they're like, "Hey, you're done. You drink this orange juice and flew it up, but you can't leave until you take a piss." Well, I couldn't feel anything down there. Like I'm like aching, because my bladder was fucking about to burst. I had to get a catheter put in. I was like, you can hear me screaming down the hall.
Couldn't you just piss normally? Did you have to have
I was so numb down there from the surgery. I was like,
Christ.
How did they put you to sleep to take it out?
No, I had to put. They had to put one in. They had to put one in.
You call me a pussy. If they're yanking that thing out of me, I would die. I would fucking die.
I had to have put one in because I couldn't go to the bathroom. My bladder was.
If somebody was pulling that out of my penis, though, I would probably pass out. If that makes me a pussy, have at it.
It's no fun going in either.
Oh God, fuck that. I'd be like, I'll piss on my own when it's in time, man. Don't put that in there. Holy fuck.
A lot of good polyp jokes in the chat room.
Hernias and polyps. We're talking hernias and polyps.
Yes. The bald fuck was a polyp.
I see that for sure. And let me stress this to Aaron. We're not talking about you. Aaron's always like, come on, man, stop the bald jokes. I mean, but he is the bald fuck, not Aaron. We're talking about Matt Nagy.
Aaron who?
Mikowski.
Oh, I didn't even know he was bald.
He gets a little. He's like, don't jab all bald people. So I'm saying we're not talking about you. We're just talking about Nagy, who happens to also be bald. Bald.
I love Jeremy asking me if I got an erection while I was having my colonoscopy. As a matter of fact, I think I did.
I might have.
See, and all jokes aside, I'm not trying to bring the show down.
Oh no.
But no, with my mom, that ended up being one of the things, and I didn't know it at the time. She was avoiding getting her annual pap smears or something, and I don't know why. I mean, because I didn't talk about like, hey, let me ask my mom about her fucking pussy. Of course, I don't have those talks, so I don't know why she did that, but I don't want to be a hypocrite and think like so strongly, like, what the fuck? Why was she doing that? And then not get my ass checked. Yeah. So I feel like I have to do that, but I am worried about it. I'm really stressed about it.
Yeah, don't be stressed about it. You'll be fine. You really won't.
You really never know.
And just as a word of warning, like Tucci, you're muted. You were muted because you were laughing so much?
Said, I was laughing a lot because the comments in the chat room and stuff. Like,
yeah, it's got comedy right in the chat room.
Bear Truth 9 was like, change the subject. I was like, wait till we start talking Bill Cosby.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man.
Well, let's make that transition right now. Let me set the stage here for people. Is it Showtime that's on? It's on Showtime, yeah.
It was on Showtime. Yeah, it was a 4-parter.
4-part series. We need to talk about Bill Cosby, the documentary, 4-part documentary done by Kanu Bell, Kanu Bell, who Kamau Bell. Excuse me. Sorry. I first saw him when he was on one of the cable channels doing a comedy show, and then he went on to CNN and was doing documentaries for him, for that network, and now he has done this 4-part documentary, and it's fascinating because it's basically from the point of view of African Americans. You had this guy who was a truly historic African American who broke color barriers. He was the first Black man to star in a primetime series in the 1960s. He and Robert Culp were the stars of a show called I Spy. And he was a comedy genius. He was selling comedy albums as a kid. My uncle had one of his comedy albums, and I listened to it incessantly. He went on to have other TV shows. His popularity and his wealth continued to grow and grow and grow. And then all of America became really, really attached to Bill Cosby when he did the famous Bill Cosby show, which showed him as Dr. Cliff Huxtable with a beautiful wife who was a lawyer and a great kids, a great family life. And we all loved the show. And it didn't matter, what your political persuasion was. It didn't matter where you lived in this country. You would turn on the Cosby Show and you would be delighted with laughs. And there was also cultural moments in the Bill Cosby Show. He was a lover of jazz music, and he introduced so many people to Thelonious Monk and other great jazz artists and so forth. The show was an out-and-out hit on so many different levels. A big hit for NBC, but also a big hit for the country because it just presented African-American families in a way TV typically did not. I grew up watching Good Times about a family in the Chicago housing project. So this documentary, so many African Americans are expressing their love and appreciation for Bill Cosby, but also how heartbreaking it is, and in some cases, what a monster he is because of some of the things that he did. I'll let you guys pick it up from there.
It's heartbreaking for me. Before I comment on the documentary, I wanted to remind you of something that's kind of funny.
Mhm.
You mentioned that, his wife, Felicia Rashad.
Mhm.
I can remember being a kid when Ahmad Rashad proposed to her on air,
Mhm.
live on TV. And I asked my mom, isn't she married to Bill? I was a kid. I thought that was Bill Cosby's wife. It's like, what do you mean Ahmad Rashad's proposing? That's Bill Cosby's wife. So, to Felicia Rashad. I don't remember her maiden name. But, that happened live on air. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't.
That Ahmad, it was on like NBC's pregame or something in like 86 or something. But, the Cosby Show, man, for me, I hate that I even have to just, say, well, I'm a white guy. Because to me, the show as a kid, I can tell you this, and I'm not just, it's easy for people to put their parents up on a pedestal, especially after they die. Never at any point in my life do I remember my mother telling me like, hey, this is a good show about black people, or this is about black people, or like, there was never any reference to the fact that Bill was black or the family was black. We didn't have a lot of family time because just domestic violence and all these things that happened. But for whatever reason, one of the things that would bring us together was the Cosby Show when I was really young. I even watched A Different World. So I was a huge fan of Bill Cosby, like a huge fan. And just watching this documentary. And again, I know that like you were pointing out all the reasons that other people, and I didn't even know that it was a show that was presenting black people in a different way that they'd ever been presented on TV, because I was a child and I didn't know the way black people had been treated on TV before, you know what I mean? Because I'm 5. But I just assumed that black people were as equal as I was, and it felt normal, is what I'm saying, from the ignorance of where I was coming from and the youth of where I was coming from. But my point being, for the people that were talking on there for different reasons that it hurt them, it hurt me too, man, because I don't have a lot of positive moments from my youth, and he was one of those. He truly was.
Mhm.
And his show meant a lot to me. It makes me feel 6, 5, 7, whatever. It makes me feel safe. My mom is going to protect me. It's going to be okay. We're going to, things are tough today, but we're going to have our meals. She's going to get us food. She's going to get me school clothes, whatever it is. And it just reminds me of that time when you're young and everything's going to be okay somehow because your mom is on it.
Mhm.
And so the Cosby Show, I'm telling you, years, Aldo, for years, I wanted to believe somehow, some way this man was innocent. I wanted to believe he was innocent. I wanted to believe in my head, I thought, and this is before watching the documentary, and I know Tooch needs to talk too, so I'll wrap it up. But I was thinking, why would he have to do these things? Because he's Bill Cosby, man. Even if he wanted to cheat, why was Hugh Hefner getting fucking head from 18-year-olds when he was 90? Because he's Hugh fucking Hefner and he's got money. Bill Cosby, one of the most famous faces in the fucking world, circa 1988, doesn't need to give women drugs and to date rape them. Why would he have to do? I just thought there's got to be a way this isn't true. But when I watch this documentary and I see that he's doing this Spanish Fly bit in the 60s, okay, maybe it's a joke, but 30 years later, he's telling Larry King live on TV how to administer it. It hurt. It hurt. Like, this is real. It really happened. And I didn't want to believe it. And when I saw the Larry King clip, it really shattered me. I'm not trying to be dramatic. I just felt like, oh, fuck, this shit's true.
Yeah.
This shit is true. And then when you hear all the women with similar experiences every one of them said basically, he'd be like, hey, let's, well, you should audition for this part on my show. And how will you relax? Well, let me give you this will help you relax so you can do an easier audition, and it'll help you. And then, like, as soon as they wake up, he's like, oh, you got to get the fuck out of my house. It's just, man, it was horrible. It was horrible. I hate that I feel like it's true now, but I do feel like it's true. And I think it's so unnecessary. He didn't have to do these things. And he was everything. He was America's dad. He let us all down. He let himself down. And I hate it, man.
Mm-hmm. Tooch?
Yeah, I think Kamal Bell would agree with Dan. There was a point in time, I think it was the last episode, where he said he wanted to quit making this documentary. He got so upset by, just making it and bringing everything out, and stuff, that he wanted to quit making it. But it was so much talent. I mean, Bill Cosby was doing stand-up when TV was still black and white. It broke so many barriers. I was amazed when I was a little kid. I used to watch the Fat Albert show. Like, he did all the voices too. It was like all the voices of all the Cosby kids were all Bill Cosby. Whether it was Mushmouth or Fat Albert, Rudy, But yeah, I was a comedic genius. And then, Father Huxtable was, role model for any family, no matter what color your skin was. And underneath all of that is the mystery, the theme, the why, of how come he had to do this, he had millions of dollars, loads of talents, and
loads of cum to share too, apparently.
Loads of cum. Yeah. He couldn't just get women.
Where's Debbie the cum lady when we needed her in 87? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm joking. I'm trying to make it lighthearted. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
He had a fetish that drove him to do, these horrible things that he couldn't control. A demon, sex demon.
Right.
Did
you all see the Supreme Court? He's free. The Supreme Court rejected the appeal. They're not going to hear the case, so he's unequivocally free.
Yeah.
And in one regard, I feel like that's great, but in another regard, I know it's not, because I did feel bad seeing him at 85 or whatever hooked up. It's just so unfortunate, and I'm stepping onto it. I'm sorry. I'm passionate about this.
I was done.
I really cared about Bill Cosby. I did. I know that sounds cheesy or disingenuous, but I did, man, and I wanted him. I just wanted him to. He reminds me of an era, the way a lot of Republicans will like yearn for like the Eisenhower days of like the 50s. We could argue about why they think that, but they do. They think about small town 1950s America. But I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and his show was in that era when you're a kid and you don't know how tough it is for your parents, and you just know everything's going to be okay, and it's just a false sense of security and ignorance, because you don't know what the world is yet. So he reminds me of a time where things are better, when we're not arguing over who stole the fucking election and was it rigged and all these things. People were united a lot back then.
Yeah, I mean, to a degree. I mean, there was still a lot of racism back then, even if Bill Cosby had a hit TV show and was helping to educate people about the black people in America. There was still a lot of racism. Yeah. Let's remember, this was the time of Ronald Reagan, and Ronald Reagan was against Martin Luther King having his own day. He didn't want to sign that bill, but he had to because he knew it was going to be overruled in Congress.
I don't like Reagan, but I'm just saying, but Democrats didn't act like Reagan. You didn't have Let's Go Brandon on the flip side of that when Reagan was president. It's just now it's your team and my team. Hell, you got people on Fox News cheering Putin.
Yeah, right.
And that's no bullshit. That's not hearsay. The first week that happened, I was listening to Tucker just to hear what the other side was saying. And if Tucker Carlson tries to say that he wasn't saying that shit, he's a fucking liar. Now, I heard he and Laura Ingraham, but I'm not trying to make it political. But my point is, back then, as like the Super Bowl, we talked about a few weeks ago, when Super Bowl 25 happened, we had just gone to the Gulf War, and you got everybody in unison saying USA, USA. We weren't so divided. Like, we didn't hate other Americans. Now, of course, they're always bigots. But
I got to interject because
Bush had a 91% approval rating at one point.
Let's go, Brandon. Is nothing compared to Trump as a Nazi and racist and all that stuff. So it goes both ways, Dan. It's a two-way street.
I'm sorry. I missed what you said. I apologize. I'm not being sarcastic. You said it again.
You're saying that people called President Biden, the "Let's go, Brandon" thing, but people were calling Trump a Nazi and a racist.
Yeah, I'm not.
So, I mean, it goes both ways. The country is divided tribally, and it's bad for a country.
I agree with you. That was my point of the Super Bowl of 25 when Bush was president. The approval rating he had was 91%. I was just saying that the Cosby era, for me, was an era. What I'm saying is, you think I could remember warmly, in the sense that we weren't so divided, and there was.
We are very divided, but
maybe that was a false sense of security on my part. But Bill Cosby to me represents an era where things were better, and for me, they're never going to be that better because I'm an adult now. They're never going to be that way. But he represents that era in my mind of when things were good, when you're young, and So that's what I'm saying is it really hurts me. And maybe selfishly, because maybe I should be saying it hurts me because of these victims. So I don't mean to take away from the victims and their stories. I'm just saying, for me personally, I really wanted this man to be who I thought he was. And it has nothing to do with the reasons that other people look to him. And I'm not saying their reasons weren't valid for the things that he was doing, for African-American schools and for like breaking, the mold that Black people had to be poor and in the ghetto, like you said earlier, with Good Times or the Jeffersons, or moving on up. Like, this guy was wealthy and he's living in a nice place and all that stuff that I didn't understand at the time, what kind of show, what it was, the aberration of it, to say that this could happen for Black people too. I didn't look at it like that. I just looked at it as, because I didn't know any better. So you see what I'm saying, Aldo? I feel like I'm going around in circles, but
no, I understand what you're saying.
Okay, he represents a bygone era to me, and I wanted him to be who I thought he was. And it just, man, it kind of hurts that he wasn't. And the one thing I will say about him that I kind of come across as maybe old man Cosby on, watching that Fresh Prince of Bel-Air reboot, I got so tired of hearing the dude playing Will, which I guess is Will Smith's kid, say, "Aight, every 3 seconds." Like, I felt like Cosby, like almost wanted to tell him to pull up his pants, even though I didn't, just because I felt like old man Cosby, hearing him say "I" constantly. I can't stand.
Aldo, why do you think Cosby had to do what he did?
What do you mean? The drugs with the women, or you mean the grammar stuff?
No,
I'm on his side of the grammar thing. Like, I can't stand glorifying improper English, but you mean the drugs?
I'm talking about why did he have this dark side?
I don't know. I guess he's conflicted, and I'm not trying to try to defend him here. He's a deeply flawed human being, I guess. But I still think that two things can be true at the same time. Cosby can genuinely care about helping people with their educations and donating this money, while at the same time being a piece of shit behind closed doors. I don't think that he was giving money, because that was intimated on the broadcast from some, that maybe that's what predators do to try to keep people off of their trail, is to do good things. And that's an arguable point. But I honestly think he did care about people. He was trying to make a difference, but he also was doing this other shit on the side, which is horrible. So I think both things can be present at the same time. I mean, you know what I mean? I just think it's not everything was to cover up his horrible deeds, because I think that's part of the narcissist in him. He doesn't feel those deeds are horrible. He feels it's part of the game. He's famous. There's a certain entitlement that if you're of this money and this wealth and you worked your way up, that you deserve these kind of things. Like when Mel Gibson a few years ago was going off on that rant and on this recording saying he deserves this woman to suck his dick. Like he's earned it. And he's yelling at this woman like she should suck his dick because, God damn it, he's Mel Gibson. And I think some of that is in Cosby too. So I do think he was donating money to help African-American students because he cared. But he had this other thing going too. And it's just, he's the one that's got to live with it.
I want to address something that's happening in the chat. A lot of people are talking about, why is the whole Cosby thing about race? And I'd like to say, when I was a kid, I grew up in New York for the first 7-8 years, had a lot of interaction with black kids, in kindergarten and first grade and so forth. Never had any problems, just occasional stuff. Didn't really witness racism. It was in Spanish Harlem where I grew up. But when I came to Chicago, one of the things, like the second week that I was here, I witnessed an act of racism by kids that really, really struck me. We were playing on the street, racing against each other to see who was the best. And after I ran my race, I started to walk back down the sidewalk, and there was this African-American girl where two white boys were making fun of the 9-year-old, 8-year-old African-American girl, and they were making fun of her skin color. And, you're black, you're blah, blah. They were saying all sorts of awful, awful things. And that poor little girl was crying her eyes out. And I will never forget the awful feeling that I had. First of all, that I didn't step in and tell those kids to go fuck themselves and so forth. But secondly, that this is what this little girl and millions of little girls and boys have gone through, not only during that time, which was, what year was that? That was probably 1968, but for years before that, decades before that. So when we talk about Bill Cosby and we talk about his race and we talk about the impact that he made as a black man on TV, because he was showing a different side and educating people about black people and that they're not creatures and they shouldn't be made fun of and that they deserve all of our respect and that they're smart and wealthy and can do anything that you, a white person or any other person of color, can be. That's important. It's important to talk about. You can call it critical race theory. You can call it whatever the fuck you want, but it's important to not forget what the fuck has happened in this country with people of color. So when I see people in the chat room saying, no, it shouldn't be about race, it will always be about race until there's fucking equality. There's always, it's always going to be that way.
Aldo, please don't think that I agree with you. Please don't think I was just telling you the way I viewed it as a kid. Please don't think that I was dismissing
I wasn't even
that.
thinking about you, Dan.
Yeah, no, not at all.
I wanted you to know I agree with you on the topic. I wasn't trying to dismiss that aspect at all. I was just telling you how I saw it under the lens of a kid. That's all.
Mm-hmm. And I agree with Cliff that it's not about race in terms of the crime that he committed. It's about Cosby being a piece of shit. But when we're talking about Bill Cosby, and if you see this documentary, you will see the point of view. It's all black people who are talking about it, unless one of the victims was white, because most of his victims were white. But everybody else is talking about how damaging it was for their hero. Just like Dan has talked about and Tooch has talked about their hero, Bill Cosby. But for black people, it's their hero because it was the first time. This was the Jackie Robinson.
One of the few. Yeah, one of the first, one of the few.
This is big. I'll never forget when Barack Obama won his first presidency. One of my very, very good friends.
I cried, man.
Yeah, you cried, and a lot of us cried.
So
my really good friend says, the only thing that I didn't like is they kept showing, at the Grant Park rally, they just kept showing all the black people. There were white people there too. Why didn't they show the black people? And I didn't say anything, but I thought about it afterwards. He was missing the point. This was the first time these black people were crying and happy because it was finally we had a black president in the White House, and that was unthinkable. I mean, 2 years before that, I was talking to someone, an in-law of me, and he said, I don't know who's going to win the presidency, but it's not going to be a woman, and it's going to be a white man. That's what he said to me. And I thought in my mind, well, that sounds racist and sexist, but that he was so sure that there is no way in this country that we would elect a woman or a black man to be. And so it's out there. It's out there. And so a lot of people are saying in the chat room, I'm colorblind. I was raised to be colorblind and so forth. Fine.
Me too, man.
Exactly. And that's fine. That's wonderful.
But everything you're saying is still true, though.
Yeah, exactly. So,
it wasn't my experiences. Like you said, like you saw Sylvester on earlier, man. Like he and I wasn't bullshitting earlier. We didn't have problems like that because it was almost equal with the amount of black people and white people. But I didn't see that prejudice until high school when we got our school got what's the word I'm looking for? They put a bunch of schools together, consolidated.
Mm-hmm.
They consolidated the schools, and we had to go to the schools with the rednecks. And then that's when I would see, and I overwhelmingly, and I'm not pandering when I say this, overwhelmingly overwhelmingly the racial tension I saw, I would pulling a figure on my ass, but I believe it to be true. At least 85 to 90% of it was created by white people. Mm-hmm. I do believe that. I'm not trying to say that white people are evil. I'm fucking white, but I can also say that that's the experiences I had. That it was the white people with the rebel flags and all that shit and saying the N-word. And, I didn't see any of that in my youth until I got to high school. But that's true, man. And mm-hmm. I believe what you're saying about the Cosby thing, too. I just didn't see it under that lens at the time, unfortunately. It would be like, as we know now, historically, if all the stuff that Dr. King the extramarital affairs, like he was no different than JFK or Robert Kennedy, all these people of his time that cheated on his wife. But the FBI, as we know now, like Hoover and them wanted to use this shit against him and to discredit him. They were so worried about his movement of peace, no less, and equality. But it would have been like if they'd have come out and smeared King as this adulterer and tore him down. Thankfully, that stuff didn't come out in his lifetime, is what I'm saying.
Yep. All right.
That was the running undercurrent of this one, was like maybe they were trying to take down Cosby, because he was such an influential and positive role model at the time. But, as it turned out, it was, too many women coming forward, with accusations. But there was that initial period of they were assassinating a character because he was black, and he was a prominent and, great. The father figure on the Cosby Show was, an ideal dad. It was, you loved that he brought that into families of all colors, but
and it just felt like at the time viewing it as a kid, like I felt like I could have been one of his kids. And then when you see it that later, even though I'm not a parent, you can still see like his frustration and how he deals with the kids and, laugh and say like when he would tell them he's going to kill them or whatever, he's not going to, but just the way he disciplined kids and stuff. It's just the whole thing, man. You want him to be that guy so badly.
Yep. I'm with you.
And it's hard to separate who you want him to be with who he is.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, I got a Bill Cosby story. When I was in high school, Roberto Clemente High School in the west side of Chicago, near Northwest Side, I was in their radio television program, and that's where I hung out, in between classes, blah, blah, blah. That's where I hung out. And so one kid comes in and says, hey, they're shooting a movie down the street with Bill Cosby and Sidney Poitier. We saw them outside. And so I took the black and white video cam, and I went out there to get some shots of Bill Cosby. And I get there. Me and my buddy get there, and there's Bill Cosby surrounded by a bunch of Hispanic and black kids. He's signing autographs, all good. I pull up my camera to my viewfinder. I focus on Bill, and he's signing. And then a black kid comes to my right, and he starts going, Libby, 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 on the label. You will like it. Because that was one of the commercials that Bill Cosby did at the time. And he kept saying it incessantly. And Bill Cosby looks up and says, okay, stop it now. really fucking mean and like a dad, like not like not like Dr. Cliff Huxtable dad, but like my dad, And so the kid stopped and walked away. And so that was my Bill Cosby story. Not much, but that's it.
Yeah, you still were beside him, man. That's cool.
Was it
Very cool.
CBS where you worked, Aldo?
No, I was I worked at CBS WBBM TV here for 7 years.
So were you there for all those, Walter Jacobson and Bill Curtis years?
Oh yeah,
those were the best years of news for Chicago.
Bill Curtis had a great voice, man.
Yeah, Bill Curtis.
Yeah, Dan, you don't know, but Bill Curtis was the Bill Curtis, the serious news voice and so forth. Yeah. And his co-anchor was Walter Jacobson, who was nicknamed Skippy, and he was the hard-hitting guy who would do commentary.
Come on, Mayor.
Yeah, going after City Hall and stuff. They were a great pairing. And then the sportscaster was Johnny Morris, the former Chicago Bear great. And then at the weather, John Coughlin, later Harry Vogtman. It was a great years.
Remember when Walter dressed as a homeless person?
Oh my gosh, do I ever? I was working there. That was awesome. Yeah, it was great. Anyway, all right. We've got 5 minutes before we lose Dan. Dan, anything else you want to bring up? And then John and I will stick around and talk a little gambling.
Just a couple things, and I'll see how it goes off, how you want to ping pong it back to me.
Okay.
2 quick impressions. Like I said, the Fresh Prince reboot, the ladies I work with were wanting to watch it. So I probably watched 4 or 5 episodes, and it is a drama. There is no comedy in this at all. They've got Carlton addicted to drugs. He and Will are constantly fighting and saying fuck you to each other. And it's just, again, I had the Fresh Prince in my head. Is maybe if I were younger now, it wouldn't matter so much but it just reminds you of when you're a kid, at least for me. I know you weren't a kid in 1991 like I was when the show started. But once more, it's like, damn, what's next? Bring back Alf and he's addicted to fucking opiates? And we talked about that in text one day, like all the spinoffs that we would do.
Yeah, that's right. We had a blast that night coming up with our own ideas.
But it kind of hurts, man, watching the show it's just not the same show, and because the other one has a soft place in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last one, and I'll want to hear your comments, the Super Pumped, the Uber show, I don't dislike it, and I find it fascinating and to a certain extent because I don't know the story at all about how it started and all the obstacles that they've had to overcome. But like I was telling you, I like it. Let me just say that again. I like it. But I find the show both weeks, I was like, man, is it almost over? And it was a half hour in both times because it's an hour show. Halfway through, I was ready for it to be over because I just got tired of hearing Gordon Levitt give these same fucking speeches over and over. I felt like I was in a class when you got a boring teacher.
Yeah, it's the second episode, and you've seen enough of Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character giving these motivational speeches, but that was a big part of his character. And so I'm hoping as we move into episode 3 that they lessen on that. They're just trying to develop his character. By the way, I wanted to just let you know, Dan, that somebody in the chat room, I think it was PJ, saying that the kid that plays Will Smith in the new Buddha.
Is it his real son?
It's not his real son. And
it's not. Okay.
Yeah, it's a kid named Jabari Banks, 23-year-old, first television acting role. So it's not Will Smith's son. But I had heard that it
Will
was.
Smith's son was the new Karate Kid, I thought, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I knew that. I didn't watch it, but yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. The kid was good.
A show that I actually like, and it's cornball as hell. I'm not going to lie to you. It's bad, but for some reason I enjoy it. Is that Karate Kid spinoff show, Cobra Kai.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why I like it. I think it's pure nostalgia because, again, I saw the Karate Kid when I was like 4. So to see the same actors all these years later, it's purely nostalgia. But the show so implausible. And if I didn't have a nostalgia feel to it, I'm sure I would hate it. But I enjoy it. It's a guilty pleasure.
It's speculative fiction, like what would happen to these guys years later, right?
Yep, exactly. Hey, by the way, Dan, before you go, can you want to share anything about your sex life?
Oh, yeah.
I haven't had any in a bit, so nothing to share.
Oh, come on. That's not what I heard.
No, that's true. But I do have a non-sex story for you.
Can we sell you on a colonoscopy?
Oh God. So like Sunday, I was going to go watch that movie I've been wanting to see.
Yeah, tell
The
us
Cursed.
that story. Yes.
So I went to go see The Cursed finally, and I go and they tell me there's something wrong with the auditorium. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. It won't be playing it's like, I was like, well, why not? They have like on Sundays, they show like old movies and stuff too, like a good gimmick. So they had Casablanca playing, and you know, it's like you've got The Batman in like 6 theaters. You can't put my movie in one of those. No, they won't be playing the rest of the night. God damn it.
That sucks.
So yeah, so I went and watched that Death on the Nile just because I was already there. And it was PG-13, and I had like 0.0 expectations for it, thinking it was going to be horrible. And it was okay. It wasn't great, but I didn't think it sucked. I came really close because they showed the preview of the movie you told me you wanted to see with the little guy from Game of Thrones.
Yeah, Cyrano.
Yeah, I really paid attention to it because you told me you wanted to see it. And it showed up today on DirecTV pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
On video on demand. So I was thinking about dropping the $20 to just watch it before it hits the theater. But when I was looking at the info, like you just see like how much it's going to be, what time it starts, that kind of shit. It said drama/musical. And I was like, oh, fuck it. If it's a musical, I'm out. One of the worst movies I've ever seen in my entire life, probably in the top 5, was that fucking movie where Tom Cruise is an 80s singer. Called Rock of Ages, and it's a musical.
Oh, I never saw that.
Oh God, don't watch it. It is so like
I had no plans to.
I don't understand musicals at all. Like it'll just be some mundane thing like, well, I dropped my keys, and then someone will say, I dropped my keys, and it turns into a song. Like, what the fuck? Why are you singing about mundane things? Musicals aren't for me.
By the way, I saw West Side Story, Steven Spielberg's take on it. I fell asleep about 45 minutes in and then woke up with about 20 minutes left. I loved what I saw about it. He's just a masterful filmmaker, the way he moves the camera and so forth. I thought some of the songs should have been updated. I think all of the songs are basically the same old Stephen Sondheim songs. But if you've got a date and she wants to watch West Side Story, you won't be totally bored if you have to go that way. And by the way, Bear Truth 9 wants to ask, wait a minute. Oh, I saw it too, and it wasn't his best performance at all.
Is Stephen Nagishi on a pillow?
Yeah, he is. He took that selfie while he was laying down and thinking about beautiful women, I think.
Stephen, you look very comfortable.
Yeah, comfortable and sexy. Bear Truth 9 wants me to ask you, is Ralph Macchio 10 times more irritating than you remembered? I feel like he gives a speech to everything and everyone on Cobra Kai. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, I find myself completely rooting for the character of Johnny Lawrence. Yeah, they in a lot of ways they make him like the good guy, which is kind of cool about it. But I after I watched The Karate Kid as an adult, I saw a lot of it. Now they picked on Daniel early, but a lot of stuff he was the instigator, and he stole the guy's girl. So in a lot of ways, he's the asshole in The Karate Kid, and it's just portrayed the way they wanted to portray it. But he did a lot of dickish things. But I agree with him. Ralph Macchio is a bit annoying in the Cobra Kai. And the main hook that is for me is the guy that looks like Tom Waddle that's playing Johnny Lawrence. I wanted to point out one quick thing for you, Aldo, before I go.
Sure.
I was watching a few months ago, what's his name? Did the Twilight Zone, smoked the cigarettes.
Rod Serling.
Yeah, Rod Serling. I was watching his second show, Night Gallery.
Yeah, that was great.
And Steven Spielberg directed a lot of those episodes on Night Gallery, where you brought him up for West Side Story. He was in the pilot. I would say in the first season, he directed like 5 episodes.
Yep. He was the hot shot. The studio signed him and gave him a bunch of TV episodes to direct. And then he broke through. I think his first TV movie, maybe it was his only one, was called Duel. And if you haven't seen that, you really should. It's a story about a truck that is chasing a guy driving, played by Dennis Weaver, famous actor from Gunsmoke. And it's just brilliantly done. You can just tell that this filmmaker, he knows what the fuck he's doing. This is just really well filmed, especially for a TV movie. And then he went on to do Sugarland Express. and then the rest is history after he did Jaws. So pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
Aldo, did Dan watch Nightcrawler? You still haven't seen Nightcrawler, right?
Yeah, I couldn't find it on there.
It is.
Is it still there? I didn't see it.
It's on Netflix. I think I saw it last week.
I thought we said it was on Prime last week.
Yeah, it must have been Prime then. That's where it is. Yeah, but I'll look for it again. And anything else, Dan, before you vamoosh and start saving lives?
I need to go, but I just want to say as a recap here that I had a lot of fun on the show. And, like I said, I hope that none of my comments seem to be insensitive or alienating toward anyone. I'm not trying to sound soft and disingenuous now, but I didn't mean to start talking politics or, what I was saying about Cosby. All that was from the heart. It wasn't to demean or anything. So I hope no one took me that way,
Nobody did. We're getting kudos. Cliff Victoria says credit to you guys for taking a tough topic head on. And thank you, Cliff, for that. It is, I get emotional sometimes when I talk about it, maybe too emotional. It's that Latin blood in me. So anyways, Dan, go save some lives. Dan, if you don't know, it's a 911
top free agent wide receiver for Dan Aguirre before he goes.
I would go with Shuster.
Juju
I've
Smith.
seen so much from him, being just a guy that goes deep and scores, man. Roethlisberger was throwing the ball to him a lot in before, I know last year he was hurt, but the 3 or 4 years before that guy was explosive. And so that's kind of what we need, some electricity. Cohen brought that his first year, just that the Devin Hester kind of thing where, holy shit, he could score from any place on the field if he receives this punt, or this kick. And that's kind of what we were missing the last few years, other than Cordero Patterson. Whenever he would return a kick, you think, oh shit, he might take it back. And maybe Jakeem Grant a little bit toward the middle to late stages of last season after that trade. But the Bears need some players like that can, to use a cliche, to hit a home run, that can score from anywhere. And we kind of are missing those playmakers. So I hope that we get somebody like that. And, go Bears, man. Fuck Aaron Rodgers.
There you go. Take care, Dan. Drive safely, man.
All right,
Good night,
love you guys.
All right, Mr. Dan Aguirre, and excuse me, that was Dan Aguirre leaving, and James, what the fuck am I saying? John Santucci and Aldo will be talking a little bit more. Hey, what I want to do is just take a quick bathroom break, and so I got a little quick break here, a little commercial I want to share with people. This was
time to go to the bathroom too.
Yeah, absolutely. Go to the bathroom, and I'll tell people what they're going to say.
My bladder hasn't been the same since that hernia surgery.
Yeah, tell me about it. My bladder is like, what the fuck is going on? I gotta pee every 10 minutes here. All right, you go ahead, and I will play this, and we will be back in about 60-90 seconds or so. So talk to you in a while.
Ellis Hall, since I came here, has been expanded twice, and both times after we were gone, by the way. So we never got it. But I mean, it was tiny.
Do you think that Olin Kreutz would politely ask you to leave the weight room because it was so crowded?
I told you what Olin used to say to me.
I know, that's why I'm asking.
No, and that was at 5 o'clock when there's no players around. Gabriel, get the fuck out of my weight room. And I go,
I think I got a commercial here. That is the great Greg Gabriel. I really, really enjoy doing that show with him. Learning so much about the game of football and the mechanics of working in the scouting department and stuff that could potentially be going on at Hallis Hall, because Greg knows he was there for 9 years as the director of college scouting for the Bears, and a total of over 30 years of NFL experience. He's worked with the XFL. He just knows his stuff. And so if you want to follow Gabriel Talks on Football, you should subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll give you alerts when we go live. That way you can interact, or you can catch it on demand. So Greg Gabriel Talks Football. It's one of our many football shows here at the Barroom Network. All right, let's see what's going on here. Jordan says, I love hearing his perspective, and really appreciate it, Jordan. When you come on, you ask some great questions. We got a lot of people who ask great questions on these shows that we have. The interaction is so cool. Jordan says he really loves Greg Gabriel. Bullshit, says Hugh Evans. I'm not sure why he's saying bullshit too, but James Foster says he's seen.
It wasn't me.
He's probably saying bullshit. Oh, there's no way you could have taken a piss that fast. I didn't. I went to get a cold drink. Let's see. We got Cliff saying, "Wish I could link the Matt."
Right, he's hot for a punter, Cliff.
Oh, that's right. That guy
is O'Donnell. O'Donnell.
1-year contract, so he is a free agent. I'm pretty sure because he always signs 1-year contracts. Yeah,
it's pretty expensive too, isn't he, O'Donnell?
I think his last contract was a little over $2 million. So he's a veteran, and so every year it goes up a little bit. But that Matt Arizaria guy, boy, he looks like a stud punter, man. You could, and a team like Chicago playing at Soldier Field, you need a reliable punter. I will say this about O'Donnell. His first 3 years in the league, he was not always Mr. Consistency, but his consistency has really gotten better in the last 2 seasons, in my view.
Yeah.
So I don't really think that there's a need to change punters, but if you can get a Matt Arizaria and you can get him a little cheaper than O'Donnell, then why not? Let's do it.
We're not talking about O'Donnell a lot, and that's good because if we're talking about him, it's usually he's done something bad. If we're talking about a punter all the time, it's not good. So how often do you say, "Oh, O'Donnell sucked today"? It's like, once in a while he'll have a bad punt, but for the most part, like you said, he's consistent.
Yeah, exactly.
If they don't draft the guy that Cliff's talking about, they'll probably have no choice but to bring back O'Donnell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the other thing is a good punt returner. Although I understand that the NFL rules committee is doing a study right now to see the amount of injuries that have happened the last 2 seasons on punt returns. Because if it is significant, there may be more rule changes on the way. I truly believe. I think Tooch, you and I may have talked about this a year or two ago, that special teams might be abolished by some time. There might be rule changes coming where you might never see a punt again. And, I'd hate to see that because it's so ingrained into football. And you got, Devin Hester and so many great players who have given us thrills with punt returns. But if it is true that because of the high high-speed collisions that are happening in special teams, they might have to do away with it. Yeah. So I would hate to see that.
Yeah, we have talked about that before a couple of years back, I think.
Mm-hmm.
About all the high-speed collisions on special teams, kickoff and punts.
Right. Mo Bierman is asking me if any development on the new show idea, Bears Talk. Yeah, it's actually bullshitting. I think that's the show, Bullshitting Bears. It's called
Bears
BS.
Shitting. Yes.
Exactly. You can call it whatever you want, but it's basically a show that I've been trying to launch and have some guests on, and not only prominent names, but also people from the barroom community, barflies, to come in and talk. So it's something that I'm working on, and probably after the draft, we'll have some more news on that. And we'd love Mo and other people in the chat room to stop in and be a part of the show. Jordan, PJ, it'd be great to see you guys face to face and interact with you on video. Tooch, what's been going on in your life, man? How's the job going?
Job's different, I'm still dreading going back to the office because I love working from home. It's just so much better working from home.
Oh man, I especially a guy that does what you do for a living, where you're in front of your computer.
Yep.
You don't necessarily need somebody over your shoulder to.
That's the only reason I can see why they would want me back there.
Yeah, but you can
make
do
sure
that.
I'm working.
Yeah. But you can do that virtually too. I mean, and it's, I think you and I talked about this after the show last week when you brought that topic up. There's so many companies now that are heading to a model where as long as you meet the requirements of the job, they say they want something done by X o'clock, and as long as it's done, then you can do it. You can do whatever you want. You can do laundry. You can jerk off. You can do whatever. Just meet the requirements of the job. And so
there's times when I am working late, on a magazine. It's like, I don't want to be downtown, fucking then driving home at 11 at night. I'd rather be here, where I can stop 5-10 minutes, change a diaper or do some dishes or throwing a load of laundry, or make myself a meal. I'm using my own bathroom. I don't have to worry about any odors in the bathroom.
Yeah.
So,
and that's the thing too, is that for a long time people thought, well, this is something that just women want, because they have so many household responsibilities. They want to work from home so they can do two things at once. No, us guys, John's got to change diapers. I got to do laundry. Yeah. We all got to do household. Times have changed. Red Truth 9 has a movie question.
For me, Departed. I love the story that it was so intense. And both movies are intense, but man, the Departed had the whole twist, at the end and everything, But,
now I had seen the Japanese version, so there were a lot of plot elements that I was kind of expecting with The Departed. I love The Departed. I'm a huge Martin Scorsese fan.
Yeah.
Training Day directed by, I think his name is Antoine
Fuqua. Yeah.
Holy cow, man. That
was great too.
Grabbed me by the nuts, and it was, there's this paranoia that the Ethan Hawke character goes through as the day his training day goes on and on, and it just really put me in his spot. What would I do if I was him? And Denzel Washington plays such a great villain. I think a lot of times when people are talking about great villains in movie history, they overlook Denzel's role in Training Day. But it's hard to pick which one is the better movie, because both are very, very well done.
Yeah, it's hard to pick. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, Mo Beerman has a suggestion for you. He says, ask for a gas raise, which is true.
I'm with Mo. I mean, look, if companies were smart, they don't need these big office buildings. Get the employee to pay for their own internet, their own toilet paper, their own electricity. Get rid of these buildings with these huge carbon footprints. Belching exhaust into the environment, less people on the road, less people using gas, there's so many savings, less risk of getting in a car accident on the way to work. You're not in an office building with 1,500 people waiting to breathe in the next virus.
All great points. Absolutely great points. You're absolutely right. I mean, and I think that you're starting to see more. I don't know if the word's progressive, but companies that like to introduce innovation. I think you're seeing more and more companies do that, where they're saying, okay, we can knock down real estate costs and all those other expenses. I know, like my wife, she works for a major pharmaceutical company, and she now works from home the entire time. And when they announced that she would be working from home and all the other employees, they gave them a raise to pay for the expenses that they would incur, paper costs from the printing stuff out, the electricity for running their computer, et cetera, et cetera. So she got a small stipend, I would say. And so that's good. And I think, more and more companies should do that. Bear Truth 9 has another movie question. Who uses music better in their movies? Martin Scorsese or Quentin Tarantino?
Man, that's a tough question. They're both excellent.
I would say I'll give the edge to Tarantino here. Only because even all of his early stuff, there was just such a fantastic use of music and pop music and pop tunes that have long been forgotten, and he revived them. I remember buying a CD, I probably still have it somewhere, where he introduced each song from movies, and he talked about why he used them and so forth. And it was funny. One of the comments from that CD that always stuck with me was he said that he would never use music that had been popularized by another movie, because he said, and I forgot what song he referred to. That song belongs to that movie, and I will never use it for one of my movies. And then years later, he did the same thing. And I can't remember what song it was, but I agree with him on that point that he shouldn't. But he broke his own rule a couple of times. But I think he does a little bit better job than Scorsese. But Scorsese, who can forget that moment in Goodfellas? Yep. With what's that music from? Layla. Who can forget? I mean, that's brilliant. That's fucking brilliant. And apparently he had that song already in mind when he filmed that scene, which is probably why it was married so well together. Good stuff, man. Great.
PJ's going out. He's coming after me with some of my favorite movies, man. We haven't had Dan see this one yet, has he? Or we talked about it here, but
yes, I don't know if you see it, but that is a great score. PJ says, I love the music of Once Upon a Time.
Probably the greatest film composer in history, one of them at least, Ennio Morricone, at least in my opinion.
I agree with you. He's one of the best.
Yep. Yeah. Once Upon a Time in the West, one of my all-time favorite movies, not my favorite Western, but the first time we saw Henry Fonda as a villain, which some movie theaters wouldn't play the movie because they didn't think they couldn't accept Henry Fonda as a villain.
I didn't know that.
That's how fucked up it was.
Yeah, that is wild.
And what a great villain too.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
He was horrible.
When Henry Fonda and James Stewart played villains, you took notice because those guys were such beloved movie characters that when they played a villain, it's like, holy shit, this is spooky. Hey, there's another Once Upon a Time movie, Once Upon a Time in America, that Ennio Morricone also did the score for, which is also one of my favorite scores for a movie. I think I have like 2 or 3 CD discs of it because I said, it's going to be hard to find this in years from now. And so I just stacked up on buying a couple of copies, and I listen to it frequently, and it's such beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah,
that and he did Cinema Paradiso, which is another great score, and
The Mission,
Bad, the Ugly. The Mission, The Mission too. Yeah, great scores.
Wow, people who love movie music, I love it, man. We attract them all here.
Yep.
What's next? Did you guys see the Godfather epic that was out a few years ago? Dan Aguirre's been begging me to check it out. I haven't seen it yet, but I hope.
What is the Godfather epic? Is it like a re-edit?
They took all 3 movies and recut them together to, I believe, go time
chronologically.
There you go. That's the word. Look at this. PJ saying Chuck Bronson was awesome.
Harmonica. That was his name, the character's name in the movie.
That's right. Yeah. What an actor. What was his real name? Buczynski. Something Buczynski.
Yeah, something Buczynski. Charles Buczynski or something.
Yeah, he's a Polish actor. Yeah. You would see him a lot in 50s film noir where he would play one of the criminals in kind of a supporting role. Yeah. And then he was in the Dirty Dozen. He was one of the bad guys in the Dirty Dozen who dies heroically. Spoiler alert. No, he doesn't die heroically. He survives. In the last scene, it's him and Lee Marvin, who are 2 of the survivors in the hospital together. Great role, and that catapulted him to leading roles. And in the 70s, 80s, he played the lead role in movies like The Mechanic, where he plays a hired killer who is grooming Jan Michael Vincent to be a hired killer. He did Chato's Land, I believe, where he played a Native American. He did a lot of crime movies that were box office hits for him. He had a nice run of movies. He was Joe Valachi in the Valachi.
Yeah, the Valachi Papers.
Yes, exactly. We had a kid growing up with us who had such a terrible acne problem that we would call him Valachi because he looked a lot like Charles Bronson, even though he was 14 years old. Jordan says, curious, Aldo Tooch, what's your dreamy, but try to be realistic for the free agency period for the Bears? All right. Tooch, you want to go first?
Well, I'm kind of with Ryan Poles on grabbing the second wave. So all those suggestions of Juwan Jennings gets my heart racing. I also like Cedric Wilson too. That would be a good pickup. And then you got, you still got Darnell Mooney. Then I'd like to see Braxton Berrios, maybe give him a shot. He might be cheap. Get him into that little Hunter Renfrow slot receiver role. Though some people say that might be Daz Newsome. I don't know. I haven't seen enough Daz Newsome to tell you one way or the other, but if I was gonna get, let's see, maybe if we're looking at like free agent guards, right? Maybe
what about Bozeman?
Bozeman would be nice.
Bozeman would be nice. He was playing guard, I think, his first 2-3 years in the league, and then he got moved to center this past season, and he's really become a very, very good center, which is what I think he played at Alabama, if I'm correct. I interviewed him at the Senior Bowl, and I thought that he was kind of small, but it's translated well. It's really funny. Guys like who's the right guard who plays for the Giants, the Hispanic surname Hernandez? Will Hernandez.
Will Hernandez, yep.
Yeah, Will Hernandez and Bradley Bozeman. I'm standing next to these guys, and they look, I'm 6 feet tall, and I'm looking, and I'm thinking to myself, I think I'm taller than this guy. But they block a hell of a lot better than I do, which is why
Will Hernandez is wide, though. He's like
wide and a fucking mean streak on him that is nasty.
Bradley Bozeman made $644,000 last year. He's gonna be looking for a big payday. But Ryan Jensen was the top paid center, who's a free agent, made $10.5 million last year playing for the Buccaneers. The long red hair guy that was snapping the ball to Tom Brady last year. Some other guys, Ben Jones on Tennessee comes to mind. He's, Tennessee has a pretty darn good offensive line. Probably starts with him. They had good tackles as well too. I saw people talk about Brian Allen on the Vikings. He was on the Vikings. I think he's on the Rams now. Let's see.
There is an offensive lineman from the San Francisco 49ers who is an outstanding run blocker, outside zone run blocker, who will be a perfect fit for this Getsy offense. And I'm forgetting his name.
Guard or tackle?
He's a guard. Let's see if he's on here.
Laken Tomlinson.
Tomlinson. There you go.
Yeah,
you got it.
He's from the Chicago area. I think he's from like Lake Forest or something, or somewhere around here.
Yeah. Well,
Buffalo Grove or something.
This guy's gotten high marks for his run blocking, and his pass blocking is not stellar, but you can work with that. So he's a guy that I would like the Bears to pursue. Bozeman is a guy I would like the Bears to pursue. If I'm going to spend a lot of money on anyone, then go after that left tackle, Teron Armstead. And if he wants $22 million a year and you can somehow figure it out and still figure out a way to get some quality players for positions of need, then yes, as I said an hour ago on this show, number one priority is protect your quarterback, and that blind side is important. I still am always going to stick to my guns and say that the guard position is as important as the left tackle, but the left tackle position, of course, is so important because it's the blind side of the quarterback, and so spend some money there, and then inquire some of these second wave free agents. I'm really big on Juwan Jennings from San Francisco. And if you get guys from those types of organizations that come from successful organizations and have high-powered offenses, if you're going to get a free agent wide receiver, offensive lineman, those are the guys to target. You don't want to target a guy who might be a good individual player, but for the last several years has been playing on shitty teams. I'm not sure. I would not say no to them, but I would also prefer somebody to come from a winning organization, just like when you're drafting college players.
Right. There's a lot of people have mentioned Cam Robinson, the left tackle on the Jaguars.
Mm-hmm.
He was a young, highly touted prospect. He made more than 13 million last season, so he's going to be expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But he stepped up last season, after maybe kind of people thinking he wasn't going to make it or turn out as a bust. But that's a name that the Bears have been linked to, maybe possibly signing for left tackle. He's only 26 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So, you sign him to a long-term contract, you're probably getting his best years, right here,
Mm-hmm.
But there's other guys out there. Chat room mentioned Cam got tagged today, said Jordan. So that's a news item that missed. I missed, but that's other news item. Deshaun Watson will be in court on Friday as the grand jury deposes 8 women who have complaints against him.
Mm-hmm.
That was another news item that went out. Let's see. Jordan Silvera also mentioned Dwayne Brown on the Seahawks. As long as the Seahawks are selling, right?
Yeah,
he's a free agent. But he's an older player. He's 36.
Mm-hmm.
Taron Armstead you mentioned on the Saints, right? He's 30.
Right. Yeah, he's and we've seen obviously with Jason Fields, the left tackle we picked up, but Jason Peters, the left tackle,
Jason Peters,
that a good player at that position can play into their late 30s, and he's going to be 40 this year. And I bet you if someone calls him and he knows the offense, he'll probably say yes and play well. That was amazing what he did last year for this team.
He's a special player. He
really is. He's a Hall of Famer. So the only thing if he plays another season, the only thing he's delaying is writing his Hall of Fame acceptance speech. He won't be a target for the Chicago Bears because, again, as Poles has stated, he wants this quicker, faster moving offensive lineman. And it was interesting that Olin Kreutz had a concern about that on the No Name podcast with Jason McKee. Kreutz wanted to know, well, how much weight do you want these guys to lose? You don't want them to get overpowered, and that is like a big concern. Sam Mustipher is a guy that can move fairly quickly for a center position, but he gets overpowered a lot. And so you don't want 5 Sam Mustipers up there on the offensive line just because they can move quickly. That's
the way they like their defense too. They like lighter, guys. But towards the end of the season, the Indianapolis defensive line got pushed around.
Oh my gosh!
Towards the end of the season, their defense wasn't as good as it was towards the So I mean, there's arguments that cut both ways. It all depends on the athletes you have there. Aaron Donald is not a big guy.
Mm-hmm.
But he's got a bigger guy next to him.
Right. So, what about that guy at the combine, the 340-pound lineman? Oh gosh, what's his name? I blew it. I should have searched this for his name before bringing up the topic. But he ran a 4.8 40 at
D lineman.
Yeah, a D lineman, and talk about a guy who could potentially be that 3-tech defensive tackle. This guy's got the size and the quickness to be that guy. The only complaint about him is he's so tall. He plays with a high pad level, and so some good coach is going to have to get that out of him. Yeah. I'm surprised. Jordan Davis. Thank you, Jordan. Yeah. Jordan knows that it's Jordan Davis. Man, he ran that 40, and it was like Daniel Jeremiah was like falling off his chair. And it was special to see a man that big run so fast. It was unbelievable. And then there was this other kid, a D-back who ran a 4.29, I think it was. It was great to see that. I didn't get a chance to see the scouting combine as closely as I have in other years.
I know. I didn't watch any of it this year.
Yeah.
I've been watching so much college basketball. It's like, I'm trying to,
which makes sense. It's what you do for a living now.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing on the side. Yeah, my side hustle.
Mm-hmm. So when does March Madness start for you?
It's on now. Yeah, it's going on right now. Conference tournaments.
Championship week tournaments. Okay. Yeah.
Tournaments started, a couple days ago. That's what I was saying. I put in some conference tournament champion bets today.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see.
Thank you, Jordan, for that. Jordan is correcting me, saying Davis is more of a 1T. and Devontae Wyatt and Travis Jones will be top end 3 tackles. Jordan Silveria, do you believe that Bilal Nichols can play that 3 tech for the Bears if the Bears were to depend on him going forward at that position? So let me know. I'm sorry, Tuch, I interrupted you about the tournament.
Let's say I put in some tournament championship bets to win the championship. For the Big Sky Conference, Montana State, I think that's a pretty good bet. There really isn't that much competition for them. They're far and away probably the best team in that conference, Montana State. And two bets in the Atlantic 10. VCU is a strong team. They're 450 odds plus 450, so 4.5 to 1. And same with St. Bonaventure. They're also plus 450. And then Villanova to win the Big East tournament. It's their tournament to lose. Probably they're the best team. I mean, Providence has been really good and really lucky this season. So that's another team that's probably their conference. So they're only like plus 125 for Villanova, plus 150, which means a $20 bet would win you $30. $100 would win you $150. And Kentucky, really great team and really deep to win the Southeast Conference, the SEC. That pays let's see, plus 190 for that bet. Good odds.
You people listening in should be writing this down. This is money.
And then Princeton to win the Ivy League championship. I know it's like minus 110 or minus 120, but they don't have any competition. So for me, it's just like I throw $100, you're giving me 90 back. I'm getting my 100 back, and you're giving me because Princeton is far and away the best team in the Ivy League. I mean, Yale is okay, but Princeton is far and away the best team. They should win it pretty easily. Right now, they were minus 120 to win the ball, which means to win $100, you need to put down $120 your stake. So, and those are the bets I made today, just after watching a little bit of conference champion or tournaments going on right now.
Cool. Well, it's a fun time of the year. I actually, for March Madness, one weekend, I spent it in Vegas and had the time of my life. I'm not a big gambler, but when you're in Vegas, spend the day at the sports book and having beautiful women bring you free drinks while you're laying a bet down on a basketball game or 2 or 3 bets. It's hard to find anything better to do on a Saturday afternoon.
Right.
I'll tell you that. It's a good time. I can't wait to get back to Vegas, one of my favorite cities. There was a time in my life where I went to Vegas like every year at least once. It was all for business, but of course, I'd stay an extra day or 2, or you got lucky. It wasn't that busy. You go for a few meetings and you have the night off. I was so popular at so many of the strip joints in Vegas. Holy shit. I'd walk in and women would gravitate towards me and say, "Oh, you're such a good looking guy." And I go, yeah. Tell me more. Well, I would give them $10 and stuff. Anything for a compliment. Those are the good days. Anything else you got, Mr. Santucci, before we send you off to bed so you can wake up early and work from your home office?
Yeah, let's see. Some games tomorrow. Looking at
what do you got tomorrow?
Really great games tomorrow, man. You got the ACC starting tomorrow. Actually, the ACC started today, but more matchups there. Love the Wake Forest team this year, man. They're really good. They're in the same as Duke, the ACC, that tournament. They're like plus 1,000. So,
wow,
10 to 1 odds.
Nice.
So,
put $10
to win the tournament. Thought about that. And then, of course, the Pac-10, Pac-12, that conference starts tomorrow. And the Big East also starts tomorrow. Tournaments, a lot of action. There's like 30-something games tomorrow. I usually, I'll wake up in the middle of the night and start running numbers through my spreadsheet. Seeing what pops out. Like today I was like, I ran it through my spreadsheet. I was like, boy, I got a 9-point edge. The over Manhattan versus Ryder. You know, and I told Anthony, I was like, that's the best play I got today. Man, he's like, what? That game sucks. You know, played the game and it went over by 8 points. So
look at that.
It was a winner. Good
for you. Hey, Mo Bierman asked, did you see the ending, the crazy ending to the Wagner versus Bryant game?
I didn't. I had Bryant in that game, but I did not see the ending in that game. But that's I don't know. I think I was doing the show.
Probably
the show started during the ending. I think. Yeah.
That's right.
But, yeah, I don't know. Let me see. Hold on.
Let's see if Mo can give us an update on this.
Bryant was up by like 20 or 30, man.
Crazy ending. So maybe
it was 70 to 43. So
holy moly!
I had Bryant in that one. They covered by 24 points. Let's see.
Cliff Victoria says he always had good luck hitting on the women who went with us to the strip clubs, amateurs, for the win. It's a good strategy, man. It's good strategy.
Right.
Oh, man. All right. I think it's time to pull the plug. I am ready for bed.
Right on, me too.
After the show, after I do the show, I'm so wired. I pick a movie, and I usually watch a movie or some TV show that I haven't finished, so I'll do that another hour or two. And
something
then
to fall asleep to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, me too.
Exactly. I love these film noirs from the 50s. The plot is so fucking simple, It's a private detective or somebody who falls in love with this femme fatale, a woman who is just no good for him. It's a story by
why you like Nightmare Alley.
Exactly. By the way, I want to see the new Batman movie because they're saying that it's film noir-like, that it's got so many of the qualities. Somebody asked us in the chat room a while ago if anyone had seen the Batman movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
You haven't? Are you going to see it?
When it comes out on video at home, I think.
All right. Yeah, this is what I want to see in the theater. I want to see it on an IMAX screen. So I hope to.
It's possible though. My wife and I finally found someone we could trust to babysit the toddlers. So.
Oh, good.
Good. I might have some. My wife wants to learn how to shoot. So there's some great gun ranges here in Iowa. So
nice.
The assault rifle and the shotgun and the handguns out.
Oh, good. I'm going to remember this piece of the video. It happens at 3 hours and 11 minutes. In case this becomes a Dateline episode that you've been I can send this to the folks over at NBC. My wife likes to shoot now.
It's fun, man. There's the Iowa Department of Natural Resources has got this great gun range. It's like 30 yard, 50 yard, and 100 yards, and they have all these little targets, and you can shoot them down. They're like steel, and then you pull the rope, they stand back up, and then like 100 yards out, there's little cutout animals,
how cool is that?
Coyotes and fucking wild boar and deer, way out there. You can get the rifle and fucking. It's fun, man.
That is, it sounds like a lot of fun. GCA says the new Batman movie is okay. It is super long. Tomorrow, by the way, right here on the Barroom Network at 9 p.m., the show hosts Salim and Carl are going to review the Batman movie. So join us if you've seen it. And if you haven't seen it, then tune in for the first half hour before they get into the spoilers segment and start talking about things that you don't want to hear until you see the movie. So that's tomorrow. Earlier in the day at 2 p.m., it'll be Bar Down Hockey with Tooch's old buddies, Vinny and Joey Parisi.
Yeah. Frank Parisi brothers.
Yeah, they're great. And Frank is too. Frank is their cousin who writes for Fansided. He reviews video games and actually sent out a story today about Aaron Rodgers is going to be on the Green Bay Packers roster when you open up your new Madden 23, whether you like it or not. He's going to be there. And it just knows hockey left and right. And those guys know pop culture and other sports. And so their 2-hour show is not just exclusively hockey. It is a very, very entertaining show.
Who's the guy that likes college basketball over there?
That would be, I think that's
Laro Golden.
Laro is, by the way, Laro Golden is no longer with our show Bulls 101. Laro Golden has been offered a great opportunity to analyze tape for SIS. And so he is, they've asked that he does not do a podcast that is pro any one team because it's an unbiased website and they don't want him to be accused of being biased towards anyone. So he's left that show, but we're bringing him back on. He has proven that he is a very, very knowledgeable Bears commentator, analyst. And so we're finding a spot for him to join us in our Bears commentary. So Laro Golden is joining our Bears coverage here in the Barroom Network.
Neil Stopchinski likes college hoops.
Yes, he's a big college hoops fan. And
Mike North,
a soccer fan. Neil Stopchinski's been talking to us about maybe doing a show on soccer, which I would love to have on the Barroom.
I like wagering on soccer too, but it's like the one thing bad. You have your team, you're winning and stuff. All of a sudden, they get a red card, and then they're playing 10 on 11. So they're missing a guy for the rest of the game, and your whole bets. You get nothing you can do. You know, you can't cash out of your ticket. All you can do is like throw a counter bet on the opposite team. You know, it's like
yeah. And I don't like doing that.
I don't like hedging either. I'm terrible at it, but
yeah.
I'm like, how much do I got to put down to hedge? Jesus
exactly. Exactly. And I'm usually in a panic mode. So
like, it's tough. It takes, you got to know, but yeah.
That's not
I watched a little soccer today. I like Bayern Munich, probably the greatest soccer team in the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, right now, the number one soccer team. I watched a little bit of that game. It was like first 20 minutes, it was like 3-0 already. So it was boring. They were already killing them.
James Harris
got 3 goals.
I'm sorry to interrupt. James Harris has just joined us. He says, "I'm late, but you're all being so happy. Rodgers is back is weird. We don't care that Aaron Rodgers is back. Yeah. We're all in consensus here, and the majority of us feel we're glad that Aaron Rodgers is back. We want to kick his ass, James. We want
I want to be able to say you don't own us anymore.
Exactly. Right? Exactly. I want.
I own you. Not anymore. I want Justin Fields to be out there. I own you.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Absolutely. So anyway, what else? So I went through the lineup for tomorrow, and then on Thursday, you football lovers, you're all here to talk football. Thursday night, we will do just that. 8 p.m. Central. It is Neil Stopchinski and Danny Shimon, the co-host of Draft on Tap. I stick around for that show to throw a few questions at them, but they are not only going to review what happened at the scouting combine, but they're going to look at it through the lens of what the Chicago Bears needs are and who could potentially fill the bill. So that's on Thursday. Earlier in the day at 2 p.m., it'll be Crosstown Crosstalk, our baseball show. We have a baseball show, but no baseball to talk about. Don't worry about it. Vinny Parisi, the host of the show, he always finds something cool to talk about or has a great guest on. So those that's our lineup for the next 2 days.
When's baseball going to start?
You know what? So, Tooch, let me ask you this before we address this question from PJ. If baseball has a late start, like July, August, are you going to give any? Are you going to care at all about baseball?
Yeah. So I was thinking this exact same thing because Anthony and I were talking about it. We had Chris Wassel on the other day on our show, and they were talking about when would the baseball season start. He's like, possibly July. You know, I'm like, at the after show, like, man, that's are people gonna? I mean, it's gonna obviously it would be what, an 80-game season, maybe, you know, or 60-game season.
Exactly.
I don't know. I mean, who's gonna care? I mean, maybe with the shortened season, more people would get into it because 162 games can be a lot for people.
You know what? I've been complaining about the 162 game season for about.
Do we need 162 games?
No, hell no. You know what we need is quality baseball. What we need are games that are under 3 hours. What we need are to get rid of the shift. I think they got rid of the shift, by the way. I think it was outlawed. We just need to watch good baseball in under 3 hours. That's the biggest thing. One of the biggest reasons that they have not effectively quickened the pace of baseball is because they make so much money. When the batter is out of the batter's box and scratching his nuts, they have some advertisement. This ball scratching moment is brought to you by Menards, where you save big money. So, the whole baseball thing is a mess. It's the Rob Manfred, the commissioner, is an asshole. But that it is what it is. PJ asks, do you guys do you guys think he was a good cop? Prior question.
Is that from he's talking Training Day?
Yeah. So here he begins here. Aldo and Tooch, quick question. How would you describe the character of Denzel Washington's character, Alonzo? And then the follow-up question is, do you guys think he was a good cop who was naive and impressionable? I'm curious on your take. Go ahead, Tooch.
Man, it's been a long time since I've seen that movie. Probably since the year or two after it came out.
Okay.
So I really, before I could really give a great answer on this, I need to rewatch it. But I remember being struck by the movie as it was powerful.
Yeah. Very powerful. I can tell you this, that the Alonzo character was definitely an evil person. He was a bad cop. He was involved in corruption, and so he was trying to hide that. Now, evil may be too strong of a word. I think towards the end of the movie, he started to lose it and became evil. He was kind of drawn into circumstances because of some mistakes that he did in his personal life, is how I remember it. And so he was a good cop who turned bad, is how I would
probably I would say so.
So I wonder if that was acceptable.
The first word that came to mind for me was conflicted, but I don't know if that does it good enough justice, because it was a complex character. Like you said, he had life situations and decisions that led to him being, more of down the wrong path, evil,
Yeah, and then back to the topic of baseball, we've gotten some comments. James Foster says, I'm boycotting baseball. 2020, last time I bothered, saw one Sox game, the Cornfield game, which was a great game. And James, I'm sort of with you, like Vinny Parisi on his show, Crosstown, talks about, people complain that the baseball is boring and so forth, but they fail to realize that there's such great strategy. And I agree that there is great strategy. Baseball is a thinking man's sport, so in between pitches, you're thinking about, should the runner on base steal base? Should they shift over a little bit? All sorts of strategic things. But the thing is that you've got 5 minutes now in between pitches to think about that strategy. You don't need that. 20 seconds is enough. Throw the fucking ball. Get the batter in the box. Let's play ball. So that's the problem. And so I'll tell Vinny Parisi about that, and maybe I'll get him to see my way. But he and his brother Joey and Tooch saw these guys play when they were kids, right? The Parisi brothers, Tooch?
Yeah, they were like a year or two ahead of my son in Little League.
Okay.
I was coaching my son and the kids his age in Hanover Park Little League, Hanover Park, Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
And the Parisi brothers were like a couple years ahead. I think they're a year apart, maybe, of the brothers. Vinny and Joey.
I think a year and a half.
One year and a half around there, one grade apart, whatever. But yeah, they were characters back then, They would mix it up with our I think they had Dan Morgan on the show. He was the president of the Little League, and he was a lot of fun. Great guy. And he's a big hockey guy too. Dan was still playing hockey when he was into his late 30s, before he's still playing hockey, getting the skates on and everything.
Wow. Yeah, Joey still plays hockey. Yeah.
Okay, so they still play hockey.
Yeah.
So they probably played with Dan, in adult leagues and stuff.
Probably.
Yeah.
Back to PJ here. He says, I don't know, I lose it. Where did I lose it? There it is. No, evil is a good word for the Alonzo character, the Denzel Washington character. When was he good? He asked me.
Maybe when he was a rookie.
Yeah, because we don't see that in the movie, because that's one of the brilliant things.
We hypothesize, yeah.
Everything is in one day. And Fuqua does a nice technique where he follows. There are these shots of the sun going up, sun going down, the moonlight, and so forth. I thought that was a nice way to get the point across that everything is happening in one day. But it's and again, I haven't seen the movie. The last time I saw it was about 15
years. It's been a while for me. Yeah.
And I think that wasn't there a part of the movie when there was a discussion with the gangsters about, it appeared to me that there was a more innocent time for the Denzel Washington and that he wasn't immediately a corrupt evil person, but perhaps I'm remembering it wrong. All right. I am tired. I'm stumbling over my words, and Johnny Santucci, who somebody said you look like Keith Hernandez.
From Seinfeld, the former Mets first baseman.
Exactly. That's how everybody remembers somebody. Yeah. By the way, you do look like him on a bad dose of steroids. That's how you.
Well, I grew the beard because my face got fatter as I got older.
Well, you look good. I'm telling you, you look good. Your wife is a very lucky woman. All right, guys. That's it for our show tonight. Johnny Santucci, you are the best. People can follow John on Twitter at John Santucci.
My free play lost tonight, though, Aldo.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no.
Yeah, I wanted to give out my best play, but it was too early. That was an earlier game. I got to let people retweet and stuff. So usually it's an evening game, that I give out a free play for. But thought South Dakota State and North Dakota State, they played twice before. They went over like 170 points both times. Today it was 150. I'm like, I should hit that, and they didn't. It was with 148 points tonight. We missed it by 2 points. 144, so we missed it by 6. No, 4. We missed it by 4 points. It was 148 over under.
Ooh. Well, good luck tomorrow with your free play, and thank you for sharing those with me. I've made a couple bucks. Nice. I don't always have time to get my bet in.
I know.
I do.
Neither do I, believe it or not. Neither do I. I'm working too, and there's all sorts of other stuff going on. I'm like, God damn it, that game already started. I can't lie about it.
That hurts, but it does feel good when the pick doesn't turn out to be good. Oh, I'm glad I didn't bet on it. But the majority of the time, that's not how it works for me. It's like, shit, I could have made some money. All right, everybody. Again, it's Johnny Santucci at John Santucci VIP. Follow him on Twitter and follow me at Barroom Network so you can get updates on all of the stuff that we're doing. I'm trying to do a better job of updating people as to when shows are on. I'm sending out little graphics and stuff just to make people aware because we do such and when I say we, I'm not trying to take credit for myself, but so many people who work here at the Barroom devote so much time to do the research and to prepare for shows. And so I want to give them the opportunity to have people aware of what they're doing and showcase their shows because they're doing some great work. I'm really proud to be associated with them. So anyway, for Dan Aguirre, John Santucci, I'm Aldo Gandia. Good night, everybody.